Qingzhou, Yuyao Prefecture, Xiaguang City. As the sun grew stronger, the city also began to bustle. Along the streets, shops gradually opened, setting up their goods. The city's market was the liveliest, with vendors carrying their loads, the greens at the vegetable stalls still wet with morning dew, and butchers slicing meat at their stalls. Pedestrians hurried along, some carrying baskets to buy vegetables, with various cries of vendors coming one after another. Suddenly, a rush of horse hooves broke the peaceful scene as a messenger, clutching an urgent document, galloped towards Xiaguang City, whipping his horse to go faster. The soldiers at the city gate quickly cleared the way for the entry of the common people, watching as the messenger sped past. What is this urgent order about? Could it be another conscription? Is the situation at the southern border so dire? Those barbarians are exceptionally brutal. The conscripts from the last round heard that more than 90% were dead or injured in less than half a year. Barely 1 in 10 survived. That's so terrible. They couldn't possibly be short of hands and conscript us too, could they? To think that the court has so many flying and earth-escaping immortals, each of those immortal sects and great families so powerful. One person equals tens of thousands of us ordinary folks. Why would they still need ordinary people to fight the war? The court just can't command those immortal sects and big families, you know that as well. In these cursed times, disasters are everywhere. There's a severe drought in Jingzhou, and the starving population is resorting to cannibalism. In Qing province, relentless rain has caused flooding everywhere. Even our Qingzhou isn't peaceful. The demon sect is growing increasingly bold. A group of soldiers gathered together, gossiping amongst themselves as, being stationed at the city gate, they were well informed about the comings and goings of many. At that moment, the messenger reached the city gate and shouted loudly, "Quickly inform the county government. A large number of refugees are fleeing from Jingzhou. The governor has ordered that all cities close their gates and be on guard to prevent the starving from causing trouble." The soldiers, initially engaged in idle chatter, were startled and suddenly fell into a state of panic. 2 days later, merely 2 days after the messenger had left, a large number of refugees began to appear on the horizon. These refugees, dressed in tattered clothing, looked thin and pallid, their eyes filled with numbness and despair, walking without any sign of vitality, resembling walking corpses. Among the refugees, there were mothers tightly holding their infants, disheveled and muttering to themselves. Upon close inspection, one would see that the infants had already passed away, with maggots moving about. Some exhausted and starving refugees were dying, surrounded by other refugees who glared greedily and kept their gaze fixed, like jackals ready to pounce, waiting for that moment of death. Meanwhile, the city gates of Xiaguang City were firmly closed, a large group of soldiers standing crookedly on the city wall, pointing and laughing intermittently, with no intention of letting anyone into the city. "Masters, please have mercy. Let us into the city. Give us something to eat. I do not need to enter, but my grandson is only 8 years old. All of you masters can buy him. He's obedient and can work hard. I am willing to sell myself into servitude, just for a bite to eat from the masters." Seeing Xiaguang City, many of the refugees showed hope in their eyes, running to kneel and beg at the city gate. Qingzhou was an important grain-producing area of the Dali dynasty. They had fled here hoping to find sustenance and aid, but the soldiers were completely unmoved, coldly saying, "There is no extra grain in the city. Go back where you came from." The refugees, having finally seen a glimmer of hope for survival, were unwilling to leave, and the standoff at the gate continued, with the soldiers driving back those refugees who tried to approach. "These people won't let us live. Let's fight and rush inside. Go find bamboos to make ladders." Driven mad by hunger, some refugees had savage expressions, calling their friends and relatives, ready to find a way to force their way in. Courting death. The city gate captain among the soldiers stationed on the wall unsheathed his saber and jumped straight down from the wall. The saber flashed brilliantly, and in moments, several dozen bodies fell to the ground. The remaining restless refugees instantly quieted down. This city gate captain was formidable, a a so-called grandmaster in the world of martial arts, with cultivation at the 4th level of Yunling realm. In Jianghu martial arts, power is categorized into 3rd-class masters, 2nd-class masters, and 1st-class masters, followed by grandmasters and great-grandmasters, representing the Yunling realm from the 1st level to the 5th level. Typically, a great grandmaster of the 5th level of Yunling realm is renowned in the secular world, dominating an area and awarded titles like Sword Saint or Gun God. Such titles are viewed as jokes in the world of cultivation. Caring about them is actually a step down for oneself. Because martial artists have simple means, their combat power cannot be compared at all with cultivators. But against unarmed refugees, it's still easy. This was why Xiaguang City was not afraid of refugees causing trouble and storming the city. Just kill a few leaders to scare them, and no other refugees would dare to charge again. All of a sudden, in the midst of this chaos, a luxurious carriage slowly drove from the road outside the city. The axles rolled with a dull noise, the carriage body was inlaid with exquisite copper ornaments, and the canopy was made of the finest silk, exuding a noble aura, glittering and dazzling. Around the carriage, more than a dozen bodyguards in black tight clothes rode on tall horses, scanning their surroundings vigilantly, their gazes as sharp as hawks. At this moment, both the refugees and the soldiers on the city wall turned their gaze to the approaching carriage. Only an exceedingly wealthy or noble personage could ride in such a carriage. "Young master, miss, we have arrived at Xiaguang City. There's a bit of a situation ahead with starving people blocking the road. Do you still want to enter the city?" A guard leader rode up to the carriage and whispered. With his mastery as a 1st-class master, he naturally wasn't afraid of a few refugees. The curtains of the carriage were lifted, revealing an interior that was equally luxurious, with fine cushions and woven carpets, emitting a faint scent of incense. Inside sat a young master in a silk robe exuding an air of nobility, along with a woman in red, her face partially covered by a thin veil. This young master was naturally Su Jie, and next to him was Han Ruyan. After leaving the Ghost Ridge Palace, Su Jie had changed his facial appearance through muscle contractions, a simple task in the secret realm that most people couldn't see through. Once out of the Ghost Ridge Palace's sphere of influence, Su Jie, posing as a wealthy young master, hired an escort agency to extravagantly tour around, heading towards the headquarters of the Heavenly Soul Sect. It was now the 7th day since Su Jie had left the Ghost Ridge Palace, and it was still a few days' journey from the power of the Heavenly Soul Sect. So many refugees. Disturbed from his cultivation, Su Jie stretched lazily and looking out the carriage window, waved his hand and said, "Let's not spend the night in the wilderness today. Let's go into the city and find an inn to rest." "Yes." The guard leader, Zhang Jun, nodded and ran off with a few skilled guards to talk to the soldiers on the city walls. "Open the city gate. Be careful not to harm anyone." Before Zhang Jun had even reached there, a burst of footsteps came from within the city. A middle-aged man in fine clothing with an impressive demeanor approached the city gate, surrounded by many servants and guards, followed by hundreds of flatbed carts laden with large porridge pots, emitting the fragrance of rice porridge. "Mr. Su." The soldiers, upon seeing the middle-aged man, immediately looked respectful. This was Su Liangpan, the family head of the Su family of Xiaguang City, a famous family involved in both secular businesses and cultivation industries, doing substantial business. "Open the gate. I'm going to distribute porridge," Su Liangpan commanded loudly, and the soldiers quickly obliged. As in Xiaguang City, the Su family's word was more influential than that of the county magistrate. After all, the county magistrate was replaced every few years, but the Su family had been here for several hundred years, a well-known local family with members practicing cultivation, and nobody dared to offend them. When the city gate opened, Su Liangpan, accompanied by his servants and guards, began to distribute porridge to the refugees. The crowd became emotional, with refugees swarming around him in large numbers. "Thank you, sir, for your great mercy in distributing this porridge. Benefactor, when I return to my hometown, I will build a shrine for you and worship it daily. Heavenly Lord, this porridge smells so good and rich. Now we can survive." The refugees were so excited they almost wanted to riot, but Su family's servants and guards stepped forward, blocking the crowded throng single-handedly, nearly all of them second- and first-class masters in martial arts, along with several dignified young men and women displaying spiritual charm, obviously practitioners, their number greater than the government's. Everyone, don't push. There's enough for everyone. Su Liangpan was personally distributing the porridge, wearing a benevolent smile as he spoke. Ah, I really can't stand to see such human tragedies. After everyone has eaten, you can choose to go work at my Su family's farms and herbal fields. You'll get 10 copper coins a day, with food and accommodation included. Those willing to register, please come to me later. Hearing this, the refugees became even more excited, each raising their hands eagerly. Me, I want to register. Sir, I'm strong. I want to work for you to repay your kindness. I have skills in masonry and farming. Sir, choose me. I'm the hardest worker here. The refugees crowded together to register, the scene growing quite chaotic. Meanwhile, Su Jie's carriage slowly entered through the city gates. Su Liangpan put his spoon down and stared at the luxurious carriage. What's the background of the person in that carriage? Su Liangpan asked one of the leading soldiers. Not sure, he says he's a young master from elsewhere, just passing through Xiaguang City with quite an entourage. I'm not sure of his background. Su Liangpan looked thoughtful, and a young man with a sinister face whispered in his ear. Uncle, he looks like easy prey. I'll check him out tonight. Be careful. If he's someone important, don't stir up trouble. Su Liangpan nodded slightly, remarking quietly. I know, uncle. Don't you know how careful I can be when I take action? At the same time, in the carriage, a faint smile appeared on Su Jie's lips as he said, Interesting. A disciple from the Guanchao Pavilion has come here. In Su Jie's perception, the spiritual power fluctuations emitted by the several young men and women in blue robes couldn't escape his notice. Su Jie had many dealings with the Guanchao Pavilion, and he had lost count of how many of its disciples had died at his hands. The restrained aura fluctuations of these Yunling realm disciples were completely visible to him. Xiaguang City, late at night, an ancient and quaint guest house appeared particularly tranquil under the faint moonlight. A cold wind blew by, causing the wooden signboard to sway slightly, emitting a ghostly creaking sound. A figure, like a specter, appeared outside the guest house and nonchalantly pushed the door open. Behind the counter, a plump landlord was bowing his head to his accounts. Hearing the noise, and just as he was about to look up, a voice came from behind his neck. Have you gathered all the information about the people? The voice was very indifferent. Hearing it, the plump landlord hurriedly began. Young Master Su, I haven't. Shut up. You have no connection with our Su family. Yes, I have never seen the young master before. It's just that I haven't found out the identities of that group of noble young masters. They haven't revealed anything. Useless. What room are they staying in? The plump landlord promptly recited the room numbers, then heard a cold snort. Following that, the feeling of a sword at his back disappeared, and he breathed a big sigh of relief. This guest house wasn't run by the Su family, but doing business in Xiaguang City, one couldn't avoid dealing with the Su family. Therefore, when approached to inquire about the identities of the noble young masters with a grand entrance who checked in that afternoon, the plump landlord had no choice but to comply, despite reluctance. Elsewhere, a young man dressed in white, with long hair tied up and a somewhat effeminate face, appeared inside the guest house. Two maidservants, both with cultivation, followed him. I don't know who they are. I should test the waters first. Su Qiu moved soundlessly and headed straight to the third floor of the guest house. Although he still didn't know the identities of that group, Su Qiu was still very confident, a confidence stemming from his background and strength. As one of the most outstanding disciples of the Su family, he had stepped into the 5th level of Yunling realm at a young age. In the world of martial arts, he was akin to a great grandmaster. He was not only a disciple of the Su family, but also a disciple of Guanchao Pavilion. The Su family lineage extended for hundreds of years, with the earliest ancestors having been disciples of Guanchao Pavilion. They left the sect to spread their branches and form the family. Afterwards, the Su family did not completely sever ties with Guanchao Pavilion. Disciples from the family with outstanding talent would go to Guanchao Pavilion for cultivation. Relying on past connections, the family gradually grew and prospered. Now, the Su family had become the most formidable gentry clan entrenched in Xiaguang City, with over 100 cultivating disciples and operating various secular and cultivation-related industries. This time Su Qiu returned from the Guanchao Pavilion to the family with a sect mission. However, Su Qiu seldom came back, so he intended to take advantage of this rare opportunity to leave the mountain, hoping to cash in and have some fun. Conveniently, the noble young master staying in this guest house, who was able to hire a group of second-rate and first-rate martial arts experts as bodyguards, must be extremely wealthy and perhaps possessed cultivation resources. Su Qiu planned to find out more before deciding if he could afford to provoke him. Approaching a door, Su Qiu knocked. "Who's there?" Surrounding rooms opened, and the hired darts masters came out warily. "Forgive the intrusion. Su Qiu, the third son of the Su family in Xiaguang City, has come to pay a visit to the esteemed guests here." With an innocuous smile on his face, Su Qiu did not strike those facing him. The darts masters just watched him cautiously. Perhaps seeing his extraordinary identity, and not looking like a villain, they chose not to drive him away. "Please come in." A voice came from inside at that moment. Su Qiu straightened his clothes and then pushed the door open. Inside the room, only a man and a woman were engaged in a game of chess. The man had bright features and an air of nobility, while the woman wore a veil on her face, her brows absent of any expression. "You're called Su Qiu. What brings you here?" Su Jie stayed engaged in the game with Han Ruyan, not shifting his gaze from the chessboard. Ignored, Su Qiu was quite displeased inwardly, but it didn't show on his face. "I heard that some distinguished guests were visiting and took the liberty to disturb you. May I ask how to address you? Our Su family has some influence in Xiaguang City, and if you don't mind, we could show you around our wonderful city, extending our hospitality. I know quite a few interesting places," Su Qiu said, while the obedient maidservants stepped forward and presented several beautifully packaged gift boxes filled with valuable antique calligraphy and painting. Of course, Su Qiu was not so kind-hearted. His idea of sightseeing involved taking Su Jie to his family's casino and brothel, to extract value from him and meanwhile, probe his identity. If Su Jie turned out to be a big shot, they would naturally return all his possessions intact. If not, then he better be ready to lose his fortune or even end up with a massive gambling debt. While speaking, Su Qiu's gaze shifted onto Han Ruyan, who was playing chess with Su Jie. Even though Han Ruyan's face was covered with a veil, her attractive figure and fair skin revealed that underneath it must be an exceedingly beautiful woman. Yet, for some reason, on seeing Han Ruyan, an extremely beautiful woman, Su Qiu felt a chill, as if facing some ferocious beast. TSK. Guanchao Pavilion's business is vast, and now you're even getting into pimping. So desperate for money, are you? At those words, Su Jie chuckled, shifting his gaze from the chessboard to Su Qiu. "Who are you?" Upon hearing this, Su Qiu's expression instantly changed, as his identity was not something known to just anyone. "I'm quite the old acquaintance of your Guanchao Pavilion. You've put a bounty of 5 million spirit stones on my head, and now you don't even recognize me at all. Guanchao Pavilion really needs to work on educating its disciples." Su Jie picked up a white chess piece and placed it on the board with a snap, creating an invincible move. 5 million spirit stones, you are the corpse hand manslaughter. In just an instant, Su Qiu was completely numb, his face filled with the color of death. Su Jie's name resonated far too loudly in Qingzhou. He had slain Wei Ji, the righteous sect's immortal seed, during a sect battle, and he had the feat of single-handedly killing 5 cultivators from the secret realm. Thus, the bounty of 5 million spirit stones on the head of Su Jie, the Ghost Ridge Palace's immortal seed, was unparalleled in Qingzhou. Han Ruyan stared at the go board for several seconds, her face expressionless as she set down the black piece in her hand, saying, "I lost." No sooner had she spoken than Han Ruyan's deadly, ice-cold eyes turned towards the three people inside the room, as if deeming them the prime culprits for her loss at the game. Crack! Bolts of thunder burst out from Han Ruyan's red clothes. These were the heavenly tribulations that Han Ruyan had absorbed, as thunderbolts thick as fingers struck down. The two maidservants, with first and second level Yunling realm cultivation, were instantly reduced to ash, leaving only their clothes falling to the floor. Su Qiu didn't even have the time to flee. As he turned around, hundreds of pale corpse hands grabbed hold of him. Wrapped entirely by the corpse hands, only his head was left visible. As the corpse hands exerted force, the terrifying strength crushed his bones. He wanted to scream, but corpse hands even emerged from his mouth, rendering him silent. "Wasn't I invited to your Su family for a visit and to play? Since you're so keen on it, I might as well take a trip there." Su Jie slowly stood up and walked towards the window, leaving behind the terrified and desperate gaze of Su Qiu. But he couldn't even utter a plea for mercy, could only watch helplessly as his body was torn and compressed by the corpse hands into a mess of bloodied flesh and bones, leaving only his head intact. In the next moment, Su Jie had already flown out of the window, carrying the head, and rushed into the sky. Halting only a step behind, Han Ruyan extended a finger and gently tapped it. The innkeeper below, who was anxious and trembling, had his head suddenly explode, spattering the counter with the gore of red and white. The Su family's residence was located on the southern side of Xiaguang City, spanning an area of 70 to 80,000 square meters, accommodating dozens of courtyards and hundreds of houses. Everywhere, one could see ancient trees reaching for the heavens, green vines entwining, ponds rippling with clear waves, vibrant bamboo groves, and pavilions with carved beams and painted rafters, showcasing the grandeur of a noble family. However, unlike what one might imagine, an opulent and refined sight, there were cries of woe echoing on a clearing within the estate. Thousands of refugees were being slaughtered en masse, much like how one would kill chickens or butcher dogs. The Su family disciples were sharpening their knives keenly, swinging gleaming blades at the bound refugees. Blood and innards spread in all directions, the stench of blood overwhelming, making it seem like one was in the middle of a slaughterhouse. These refugees, who had received porridge from the Su family during the day, couldn't have imagined that the charitable and sincere Su family, which had welcomed them into the residence, would treat them like animals to be butchered. At the center of the clearing was a huge pit of tens of meters in diameter, with blood-red flames burning inside. Corpses of the slain were being thrown into it. Upon closer examination, one would notice a giant cauldron within the pit, which swiftly melted the corpses thrown into it. At the bottom of the cauldron were dozens of blood elixirs the size of fingertips, with the elixirs gleaming and exuding a faint aromatic fragrance, with no hint of the gruesome materials they were made of. Not far from the clearing, in a building enveloped with the scent of sandalwood and decorated with brocade, sat a jade bottle on a stand, filled with blooming peonies demanding attention. On the wall hung a landscape painting, the ink vivid and swirling with mist, as if cranes could fly out at any moment. Su Liangpan, the head of the Su family, sat here. His gaze was directed below at the butchering and killing, as he instructed his eldest son, Su Jui. "With these refugees, we should have just about enough for 100 blood elixirs. You'll personally escort this batch of blood elixirs to Luyun Manor. With Elder Zhuang's introduction and care, perhaps you could become Elder Zhuang's disciple, and our family could grow even stronger." "Thank you, Father. Thank you for giving me this opportunity." Su Jui's face lit up, understanding that this was a chance his father had fought for him. Although he was also a disciple of the Guanchao Pavilion, he was just an ordinary inner disciple there, with no way of connecting with Elder Zhuang. This opportunity, if grasped, could benefit him for a lifetime. After all, he would be befriending none other than Guanchao Pavilion's Supreme Elder. Su Liangpan nodded slightly and said, "This family will be yours to manage in the future. You must cultivate good relationships with your fellow disciples and elders at the Guanchao Pavilion. In the future, These will become the backing for our family. Do not slack off. Son understands. I've always been good at fostering relationships with the fellow disciples and seniors, Su Jui replied. As long as you know what's important. Speaking of which, your younger brother has been out for quite some time tonight. Why hasn't there been any movement? Su Liangpan felt somewhat uneasy as he brought up another matter. Father, Xiaguang City is our turf, and besides, Qiu has 5th-level Yunling realm cultivation. You're still afraid something will happen to him? Su Jui was dismissive, but seeing his father Su Liangpan's face, he quickly added, I'll go out and look for him then, and bring him back to see you. As Su Jui was about to head out, a disturbance suddenly arose outside. What in the world? Where did all these paper men come from? Ghost, it's a ghost. Grab your weapons. A demon cultivator is making trouble in our Su family, seeking death. We can't fight it. Can't fight it all. Please don't kill me. It has nothing to do with me. Su Jui and Su Liangpan were startled and quickly walked over to the window, where they witnessed a scene that made their pupils contract. They saw figures of paper men, ethereal and flickering, appearing in the estate, walking on the ground, walls, and ceiling. These paper men were made from white paper, with eyes, noses, and mouths dotted with ink on their faces and thick blush smeared on both cheeks. All the paper men held paper knives, paper guns, and paper swords, attacking anyone they saw. Blood splashed onto them and instantly soaked in, their mouths ripping open to the roots of their ears, growing increasingly vicious. In the estate's copper mirrors, numerous women twisted their bodies, extending their arms tens to hundreds of meters long, dragging living people into the mirrors. The lanterns hanging in the Su family's estate had all turned white, each bearing a large character for sacrifice. Whenever a living person passed by, their heads would automatically detach from their necks, transforming into a new white lantern. The Su family's cultivated disciples and the skilled martial artists hired to protect the estate appeared extraordinarily fragile in front of these strange ghosts, slaughtered as easily as pigs and dogs, just like they had killed those refugees. Occasionally there were Su family disciples at the 3rd or 4th level of the Yunling realm who could put up a fight, but they would be swarmed by paper men and torn to shreds alive. In the distance above the estate, a woman in a red wedding dress was floating in the air, with an eerie blood moon phantom looming behind her. Ghost! Ghost cultivator! It's the Heavenly Soul Sect! Upon seeing this scene, the first thing that came to Su Jui and Su Liangpan's minds was the Heavenly Soul Sect. After joining forces with Ghost Ridge Palace to repel the 5 righteous sects in the battle that swept through Qingzhou half a year ago, the Heavenly Soul Sect had become infamous in Qingzhou. Who on the streets didn't know of the sect's fearsome ability to raise fierce ghosts? Now, seeing his family members and relatives dying at the hands of fierce ghosts, Su Jui was overwhelmed with anger, and fear assaulted him like a tide. His hand rested on the storage bag at his waist, but he lacked the courage to take out a magic artifact and fight the fierce ghosts. Because the fierce ghosts invading the Su family were, in any case, not something he, merely at the 7th level of the Yunling realm, could handle. Just now, Su Jui had witnessed with his own eyes how one of his uncles, a strong practitioner at the 8th level of the Yunling realm and the most formidable expert in the Su family, upon merely being glanced at by the ghost bride floating in the sky, had his clothes turn into a red wedding dress, his body turning into an insect cocoon enveloped by a spider. As the red wedding dress tightened, his body was ground up like meat fed into a grinder, squeezing out a pulpy mess from the sleeves, collar, and hem of the dress. The Su family, a prominent clan in Xiaguang City, had only a handful of people, including those they had hired, who had broken through to the 5th level of the Yunling realm, not even enough for the ghost bride to kill in a few seconds. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! How can there be such a ruthless ghost? When did we ever offend the Heavenly Soul Sect? Su Liangpan's face turned extremely ugly and furious, but after calming down a bit, he quickly grabbed his eldest son's hand. Come with me, escape through the secret passage. These ghosts are too strong. There's no saving our people now. Let's find Guanchao Pavilion. It must be said that Su Liangpan was a ruthless man. He dared to abandon his family and property, deciding to flee for his life on the spot. But just as Su Liangpan turned around, he discovered that a man sat in the place where he had just been sitting, with a round object placed on the table. "Mr. Su, where are you rushing off to in such a hurry? Your family invited me as a guest, but you haven't shown the slightest courtesy due to a landlord. At the very least, would you pour me a cup of tea to drink?" Su Jie's face beamed with a sunny, radiant smile. The object placed on the table upon closer inspection was the head of Su Qiu, with eyes wide open in unrelenting agony, resentment, and despair, suggesting he had suffered inhumane torture before death. Accompanied by the continuous screams and carnage from outside, Su Jie's figure seemed nothing short of a nightmare in the eyes of the Su father and son, chilling them to the bone as fear engulfed their minds and bodies. "May I ask where our Su family has offended you, sir, to warrant such a murderous assault? If it's wealth you seek, we are willing to give all our assets to you, just to spare our family's lives." Su Liangpan's voice was hoarse as he saw his third son's severed head on the table. Yet he still had to beg Su Jie for mercy. "Beg for mercy?" Su Jie pointed at the corpses of the butchered commoners scattered on the ground, raising his eyebrows as he spoke. "When you killed those commoners, did they not beg for their lives?" Su Liangpan was trembling all over, but he forced himself to remain calm and said, "These commoners were the ones driven away by the court. In doing what we did, we were also helping relieve the court of its worries. Otherwise, leaving these commoners unchecked as they stormed the cities and countryside, who knows what destruction and casualties they would have caused." Upon hearing Su Jie speak up for the commoners, and apparently taking him for a member of the righteous, Su Jui said, "Those commoners are merely a disaster. We have greater uses than them, and naturally we cannot let them run amok. Which righteous sect do you belong to? Perhaps our Su family even knows you. Let's not flood the Dragon King's temple by mistake." Su Jie shook his head with amusement. "Who among the righteous would drive out ghosts in this way? I am thoroughly a demon cultivator. As a disciple of the Guanchao Pavilion, you should have heard of the bounty on my head, 5 million spirit stones. Sometimes I even think about taking my own head to claim the reward."
Korpse hand man sloukter, Suye.
The faces of Su Liangpan and Su Jui went pale as they immediately thought of Su Jie's notoriety. His wanted poster still hung at the city gates of Xiaguang City. By your logic, the demon path slaughtering the righteous can also be considered relieving the worries of my Ghost Ridge Palace. Plus, since I am stronger than you, coming here today to exterminate your clan is justified. For instance, just now your sophistry, it displeases me so. While speaking, Su Jie's gaze landed on Su Liangpan, and 2 beams of purple light shot out, completely dissolving Su Liangpan where he stood. "Father!" Su Jui's soul was terrified. His guts turned to water by Su Jie's murderous technique of killing without batting an eye. Su Jie lounged, legs crossed, examining the exquisite porcelain on the table, and spoke indifferently to Su Jui. "I'm quite interested in the blood elixirs you've been producing. With the resources at the Su family's disposal to perform such demonic acts, what do you intend to use these blood elixirs for? You devil, even if I told you, I would die. You will get no information from me." As soon as Su Jui finished shouting, he turned and leapt out the window, unwilling to follow in his father's footsteps. Outside, the entire Su family estate had turned into a hell on earth, with corpses everywhere. Under the slaughter of a few fierce ghosts, resistance or hiding were futile. Death was inescapable. Su Jui had just jumped through the window and not yet landed when a black cloud swooped down at incredible speed. The black cloud was composed of densely packed human-faced moths, by the tens or hundreds of thousands. They enveloped Su Jui, forming a cocoon of insects around him. "We demon cultivators enjoy stubborn mouths the most. I have many techniques that come in useful." Su Jie snapped his fingers, a playful smile spreading across his face. Wrapped mid-air, Su Jui was struck by terror as he found the human-faced moths burrowing into his skin, beginning to nibble away at his insides. The agony of the insects devouring his body, physically experiencing his flesh and organs being chewed away bit by bit, was excruciating. Every inch of skin screamed in unbearable pain. What was even more desperate was that he couldn't die if he wanted to. Come on, don't give up the ghost so easily. I'm very patient. If you don't talk for a day, they bite for a day. If you last 10 days, they gnaw for 10 days. Let's see who outlasts whom. Su Jie tossed a few healing pills into him, sustaining Su Juyi's injuries. You fiend. Su Juyi passed out from the pain, only to be woken by the torture again. Seeing Su Jie's face was like seeing the most terrifying enemy in his life. I'll speak. I'll tell everything. In just over a dozen seconds, Su Juyi couldn't hold on any longer. The pain swept over him like tidal waves, endless and eternal, making every second feel like a year. The pain was worse than death, and he could no longer keep up a facade of defiance. The blood elixirs are destined for Zhuang Liangru of the Guanchao Pavilion's Supreme Elder. We were just carrying out orders. At this familiar name, Su Jie's eyes narrowed. Zhuang Liangru? The Supreme Elder of the Guanchao Pavilion ordered you to create blood elixirs? If you're lying, you know the consequences. It's Zhuang Liangru. During the sect war, Zhuang Liangru was gravely injured by the sect master of Ghost Ridge Palace with an annual ringworm, losing half of his body. The temporal poison from the worm continues to corrode his body, and his wounds have not healed over a long time. To heal, besides a 10,000-year-old elixir, only a human refining blood pill can gradually eradicate the temporal poison. In order to end his suffering, Su Juyi did not dare conceal anything and spilled everything. Half a year ago, Zhuang Liangru went to Luyun Manor to recuperate in secret to avoid detection at Guanchao Pavilion. He also ordered the entire Luyun Manor to collect blood elixirs for him, and who knows how many people have been killed for it. The blood elixirs we are currently refining ultimately must also be sent to Luyun Manor. Stroking his chin, Su Jie found the information quite heavy. He had seen annual ringworms before but hadn't anticipated that Zhuang Liangru, a practitioner of the Taoist platform realm, would be left with incurable injuries. The mention of Luyun Manor also struck a chord with Su Jie. It was one of the 5 major certified merchants under Ghost Ridge Palace, conducting extensive human slave trade with them. Now it turns out they provided blood elixirs for Zhuang Liangru as well. Luyun Manor, Zhuang Liangru, interesting. Su Jie's eyes flickered, his mind spinning with calculations. Zhuang Liangru has to consider the face of the righteous sect. All the dirty and tiring tasks are done behind the scenes by the likes of Luyun Manor and other noble families. They keep their hands clean in public. I beg you. I've told you everything. Just kill me now. Kill me. It hurts so much. Su Juyi told everything he knew. His face contorted in pain, only wishing for a swift death. Su Jie thought for a moment and understood. As the largest sect power in Qingzhou, Guanchao Pavilion couldn't possibly be unaware of the dealings between Luyun Manor's noble families and Ghost Ridge Palace in the black market. But these noble families themselves are intricately linked with many righteous sects, like the Su family, which had members joining Guanchao Pavilion for generations. These half-black, half-white nobles run all sorts of secular and cultivation businesses with widespread business networks. When necessary, they can also act as white gloves for Guanchao Pavilion to keep their own hands clean. For example, these blood elixirs were clearly made by the hands of the Demon Path, but Zhuang Liangru had used them, making these noble families serve him. Guanchao Pavilion became the largest sect in Qingzhou and also destroyed many demon sects. Those demon sect scriptures naturally fell into the hands of Guanchao Pavilion. Whether they used those scriptures for destruction or for secret cultivation, outsiders could not know. Anyway, if Su Jie seized scriptures, as long as they were useful for his own cultivation, he didn't care whether they were of the righteous or demon path. He would cultivate first and ask questions later. Su Jie sneered. What a righteous gentleman, so well disguised. While speaking, Su Jie watched the barely breathing Su Juyi as the human-faced moth cloud spat out acid, corroding him into sludge, not leaving a complete corpse. Only a storage bag fell into Su Jie's hand. That's taken care of. Han Ruyan drifted over and threw a storage bag to Su Jie. This was found in the Su family's possession. Spiritual materials and spirit stones, totaling more than 20,000. This amount surprised Su Jie. So many treasures. TSK. This is just a small noble family and they have accumulated so much wealth. It's a pity that we can't take it all. Su Jie was full of emotion. In fact, the true assets of the Su family weren't just these. The real value lay in their ability to plant spirit grain, in the faint spirit land where spiritual energy seeped to the surface, in some low-level spiritual material mines, in market seats for cultivators, in the family-trained low-level alchemists and artifact refiners, including trade routes with loose cultivators, righteous sects, and demon path trades. These were the true value of a noble family, able to continuously make money. But Su Jie couldn't possibly get his hands on these things since the outside world was under righteous sect territory. Having satisfyingly secured his spoils of war, Su Jie said to Han Ruyan, "My lady, do you think if we killed a badly injured Taoist platform realm expert, we could make a fortune in one stroke?" Han Ruyan replied, "My lord, whoever you want to kill, I will help you kill." Sizzling. The thousand-handed centipede also emerged from Su Jie's robe, making a noise to show it was ready to participate. "Then let's make a big transaction. If that Zhuang Liangru is indeed severely injured and weak, TSK, I have yet to kill someone from the Taoist platform realm." A cruel smile appeared on Su Jie's face. He loved to prey on the old, the weak, the sick, and the disabled, for after all, he was a demon cultivator. After Su Jie left, the refugees who had luckily survived dared to carefully get up and then found the Su family's granaries. The sight of the granaries filled with food brought them to tears. Su Jie was indifferent to ordinary food, only collecting spiritual materials and spirit stones, but to the ordinary refugees, this food was their hope for survival. 3 days later, Su Jie, having disguised himself, arrived in the territory of Luyun Manor. He had been here once before when the sect assigned him the task of transporting human slaves. He remembered the address very clearly. Luyun Manor was not located in the city. The manor was built against the mountain. The remaining sunlight of the setting sun cast a golden glow over the mountaintop, weaving a magnificent picture with the lush greenery of the forest. At the mountain's base and midslope, various buildings with an antique charm were built along the mountain. Between the pavilions and towers, corridors wound and trees flourished. However, as soon as they reached this place and still several kilometers away from the manor, Su Jie smelled a strong scent of blood. "There's a heavy aura of death. Many people have died." Han Ruyan looked up at the sky above Luyun Manor and said expressionlessly, "Normally, such a bustling manor would definitely be lively, but now the whole place was eerily silent, with a disturbing quietness." Su Jie was surprised, as Luyun Manor was not like the Su family. The latter was just a small-time power that could only dominate in Xiaoguang City. According to Su Jie's knowledge, Luyun Manor had 3 members in the secret realm, considered a very famous and powerful noble family in Qingzhou. Su Jie, being cautious, did not approach but instead sent his poisonous insects to scout ahead, utilizing his powers of insect control technique to see through their eyes. In the humming sound, the small insects controlled by Su Jie flew into Luyun Manor. What met the eyes was that this once prosperous manor now only had deathly silence and terror remaining. Between the broken walls and ruins, bodies were strewn about, splattered with blood, giving off acrid smell of iron, resembling a hell on earth, enough to send shivers down one's spine. The wind passed through the broken windows of the manor, making a whining sound, with the air filled with the scent of blood and decay. The entire Luyun Manor has been slaughtered. Such ruthless methods. Although Su Jie had guessed that something had happened at Luyun Manor, actually seeing this scene was still very shocking. Suddenly, in front of the main building's ancestral hall deep within Luyun Manor, the bodies were arranged in an unusually orderly manner, as if they had met their death after being judged. Blood flowed down the steps, and the various family portraits and ancestral tablets hanging in the ancestral hall seemed to be watching over these bodies, creating a particularly eerie contrast. And on the roof of the main building's ancestral hall, a cold figure stood quietly. She was wearing a simple blue and white porcelain-colored long dress, which fluttered in the wind, as light as a floating cloud. Her bright eyes were black and profound, Her clear skin was like snow, and her black hair cascaded down like a waterfall. Suddenly, the woman seemed to sense something. Her cold eyes looked over, seemingly seeing through the insects to the figure of Sujie. Bang! The next moment, the perspective of Sujie's insect disappeared. In the distance, a figure approached slowly, the same woman that Sujie had just seen. With a single step, she would appear a kilometer away, like some kind of shrinking ground to inches divine skill, with every move being the most harmonious symphony between heaven and earth. As she walked by, the flowers and plants nearby burst into bloom, and the vegetation turned lush green. Every movement radiated utter elegance. In just a few steps, she arrived in front of Sujie. Upon closer inspection, her long dress was adorned with cranes and immortal deer, embroidered with an array of flowers, reflecting a faint luster in the setting sun, just like her untainted, indifferent temperament. The blood-colored wedding dress sparkled on Han Ruyan as she moved past Sujie. But upon seeing the woman's face, even with Han Ruyan's disposition, there was a moment of surprise. Ning Xinyue, wait. No, you are not her. More shocking than the other speed to Sujie was that extremely beautiful face that looked strikingly similar to Ning Xinyue. But their temperaments were completely different. Ning Xinyue was mischievous and lively, like a blooming sunflower in the sunlight, while the girl in front of him felt like an orchid in a spring, aloof and unsullied by dust, the contrast stark. Therefore, even though the girl in front of him bore a strong resemblance to Ning Xinyue, Sujie could tell at a glance that she was not Ning Xinyue. The girl parted her lips slightly, looking at Sujie's face, and spoke slowly. "It was you who took away my sister." Her voice was pleasing, like a light caress of a mountain breeze. But her demeanor suddenly changed, with an imposing pressure descending, the sky and earth changing color, and surging spiritual power making the area within a kilometer like the center of a storm, as if she had already become the ruler of this realm, with all enemies before her as insignificant as dust. Taoist platform realm. Sujie's face changed slightly. This girl was definitely at the cultivation of the Taoist platform realm, and judging by her age, she was even younger than Sujie. Considering what Ning Xinyue had previously mentioned, he also understood the identity of the girl in front of him. "Are you Ning Xinyue's twin sister?" Sujie steadied himself, sensing the tsunami-like powerful spiritual power fluctuations emanating from the girl, which were even more terrifying than what sect master Zhang Junwei of Ghost Ridge Palace had made him feel. Sujie finally understood why Ning Xinyue was so afraid of her sister. The girl's gaze turned to Sujie's side, where Han Ruyan stood, and to the thousand-hand centipede on Sujie's shoulder, as her aura became increasingly intense. The sky split open like a giant maw, spewing endless fury, dark clouds pressing down, lightning slicing through the heavens like swords, accompanied by deafening thunder. Thousands of lightning bolts struck down, blasting crater after crater into the ground, and the storm carried sand and debris, sweeping over the remnants and broken walls of Luyun Manor. Dust flew, and debris danced in the air. Such a scene of natural disaster dwarfed human endeavor, rendering all efforts in the face of nature's power seemingly inconsequential. Sujie's expression was grave. He had dabbled in heavenly might, at the Taoist platform realm, capable of summoning natural disasters against his foes. However, Sujie was far from reaching the scale of heavenly might the girl before him wielded. Han Ruyan slowly looked up, her wedding dress flickering with red light, and her body became a black hole, drawing in the thunderbolts into the blood-colored wedding dress, while a cold blood moon emerged behind her. Within the moon were tiny black spots, akin to the eyes of wandering spirits, peering out from the darkness at everything, filling the air with an ominous and deadly stillness that suffocated. The thousand-hand centipede on Sujie's shoulder hissed, its body violently expanding to become a 300-meter-long behemoth. It towered like mountains, each piece of its scale armor gleaming with a metallic luster. Its breaths brought gales, kicking up dust, and its roars echoed for miles around, sending shivers through the souls of those who heard it. A ghost and an insect feeling the threat, moved to shield Sujie, confronting the girl's formidable aura. 7th grade fierce ghost. 7 refinement poisonous insect. No wonder you've earned the name corpse hand manslaughter, said the girl, her stoic face barely changing as she looked on with detachment, an air of cold arrogance about her. She then said, Ning Yunying, my sister Ning Xinyue, in her whimsy, left home. Thank you for looking after her these past days. As the girl stopped speaking, her aura vanished instantly, and the dense clouds above dispersed as if the disastrous scene had never occurred. This level of control, summoning and dispersing power at will, indicated absolute mastery and placed her among the top powers within the Taoist platform realm. Just this show of dominance was enough to send a chill through Su Jie's spine. This girl was clearly not one to be trifled with. Su Jie, I dare not take credit for looking after her. Miss Ning also helped me out quite a bit, so it was merely a cooperative venture. Su Jie beckoned, and the centipede shrank, twining around his arm, hissing at Ning Yunying, showing a bit of defiance. Xinyue has told me about you. Ning Yunying approached Su Jie, looked him up and down and said, Since entering Qingzhou, I've heard of your reputation, corpse hand manslaughter, demon sect immortal seed. Seeing you in person, the name is indeed well-deserved. Compared with Miss Ning, who reached Taoist platform realm at such a young age, my reputation counts for little. Stroking the 1,000-hand centipede in his hand, Su Jie pointed towards Luyun Manor, now nothing but death and ruins, and asked, Miss Ning, does this have something to do with you? This manor? I slaughtered it. Ning Yunying made no attempt to hide the fact, her serene and ethereal beauty contrasting sharply with the merciless and indifferent words she spoke. Whoever dares touch my sister deserves such a fate. Ning Yunying stated in a condemning tone, unshakable in her words, offering no defense for slaughtering tens of thousands, her actions revealing an unrivaled indifference. Impressive. Su Jie gave a respectful bow. Clearly, she was avenging Ning Xinyue. Initially, Ning Xinyue was sent to the slave-trading ship by Luyun Manor, where Su Jie first met her. Luyun Manor could hardly have imagined that for the sake of one girl, they would be annihilated, with none spared. From this, it was evident that not only was Ning Yunying powerful, her killing intent matched even that of the demon path. After all, those on the righteous sect would often try to spare families from their wrath, at least in public, unlike the demon path who would slaughter without restraint. Considering this, beneath Ning Yunying's frosty exterior lay a heart capable of unsparing slaughter, unswayed by the outer world. It's no wonder Ning Xinyue had no qualms about joining Ghost Ridge Palace, killing numerous of the righteous sect without a second thought, and acting wildly unbefitting of her former status. With such a sister, it's likely Ning Xinyue never considered herself a part of the righteous sect. Pity. I too was looking to cause trouble for Luyun Manor, but Miss Ning, you beat me to it. Su Jie said regretfully, shaking his head. Ning Yunying's eyes flickered slightly at his words. Were you planning to stand up for Xinyue? To tell the truth, I've had my own grievances with Luyun Manor for a while.
Su Jie smiled.
Although he came for Zhuang Liangru, he truly intended to exterminate Luyun Manor and profit handsomely from it. Ning Yunying's attitude softened. It seems Xinyue has a good eye for friends. Miss Ning, have you seen a middle-aged man at the Taoist platform realm? The Supreme Elder from Guanchao Pavilion, who was reportedly healing at Luyun Manor? Him? Half an hour before I arrived at Luyun Manor, he confronted me. After I struck him with a palm, he used a transmission spirit talisman to flee. Since he wasn't my target, I didn't pursue him immediately. Do you have a vendetta against him? Ning Yunying spoke casually, as if sending a Taoist platform realm expert fleeing with a palm strike was an insignificant matter to her. My bounty was set by him, and it was not easy to have this opportunity. It would be such a pity if we let him escape. Su Jie felt quite regretful he had actually allowed Zhuang Liangru to escape. It would be difficult to find such a good opportunity again. He won't escape. His location is in this direction, about 500 miles in a straight line. If you move quickly, you should be able to catch up to him. Because he's been poisoned with a goo toxin, exercising his power will only deepen the poison, so he probably hasn't gotten far. Ning Yuning pointed calmly in the northwest direction, giving Su Jie the guidance. Su Jie was surprised and couldn't help but take a few more looks at Ning Yuning. The fact that she knew Zhuang Liangru's location so clearly meant she must have used some tracking method on him, and it was obvious that her intention was mostly to eliminate Zhuang Liangru as well. In the face of Su Jie's inquisitive gaze, Ning Yuning indifferently said, "To nip it in the bud, since he has shown up at Luyun Manor and even came forward to protect it. It shows that he has a close connection with Luyun Manor. To prevent him from pulling any tricks down the line, using decisive measures to completely eradicate him, to stifle the danger in its infancy, is what we cultivators should do." Ning Yuning's bright eyes were cold. Her thin lips pressed tightly. She maintained an aloof posture, standing as elegantly and sternly as a sculpture, making extermination sound very casual. This is a ruthless person. Hearing this statement, Su Jie looked at her flawless, beautiful face, as if he had re-evaluated her anew. She had the temperament of a fairy, yet her methods were thunderous. Seen in the eyes of the righteous sex, she would surely be labeled as a witch or sorceress. "You seem to be thinking about something bad?" Ning Yuning's pair of bright eyes seemed to be able to penetrate the abyss of the human heart. "Cough. You're overthinking." Su Jie coughed twice. The person in front of him was at the Taoist platform realm, and given her display of heavenly might just now, he had to give her the respect she was due. "Since you have a grudge against that man, I'll leave him for you to deal with." Ning Yuning didn't delve deeper. She turned around slowly, stepping through the air with an unhurried gait, displaying a noble demeanor, and quickly disappeared from Su Jie's sight. She left as soon as she said she would, very neat and decisive, just like the way she handled matters with utmost efficiency. The sisters really do have quite different personalities. Su Jie sighed. Ning Xinyue certainly didn't have as strong a killing intent as her sister did. "Let's go, we should get to the main task at hand." Su Jie took one last look in the direction where Ning Yuning disappeared, then soared into the sky, traveling through the air, speeding in the northwest direction. Han Rian followed close behind, sitting in a big red flower sedan chair, while the thousand-hand centipede floated in the air, flanking Su Jie on both sides. 500 miles was just a moment's effort for Su Jie, now at the 4th level of secret realm cultivation. He appeared amid a range of mountains. Looking at the vast range of mountains beneath his feet, Su Jie knew that if Ning Yuning was right, Zhuang Liangru was likely hiding somewhere in the mountains below. Given his injuries from the annual ringworm goo insect, running away while using his spiritual power was certain to add to the poison. Su Jie deduced that the man must be hiding below and perhaps had even called for reinforcements from Guanchao Pavilion. If Su Jie wanted to find him, he had to act quickly and decisively. Otherwise, delays could lead to complications. For an ordinary cultivator at the secret realm level, faced with a mountain range surrounded by peaks and valleys, trying to find a deliberately hiding Taoist platform realm in a short span of time would be like finding a needle in a haystack with an extremely slim possibility. However, fortunately for Su Jie, he was quite confident when it came to tracking people. "Shao Qian, it's up to you now." Su Jie patted the big brain shell of the thousand-hand centipede. The centipede chirped a few times, its body trembled, and countless pale corpse hands fell from the sky. Upon landing, these pale corpse hands immediately came to life, like creatures, starting to crawl frantically in the branches, caves, and grass, searching. In the process, the pale corpse hands continued to split, 1 into 2, 2 into 4, 4 into 8. After advancing to become a top grade 7 refinement goo insect, the thousand-hand centipede's various abilities were greatly strengthened. For example, its first ability, the pale corpse hand, could easily split and proliferate over the mountains and fields. During this process, in just a few short minutes, the thousand-hand centipede wrapped around Su Jie's arm made a discovery. Sizzling. Sizzling. The thousand-hand centipede clamored while locking its gaze on a spot halfway up the mountain. "Oh, over there?" Alerted by the thousand-hand centipede, Su Jie's gaze followed its line of sight, and with a fierce slap, his right hand pounded downward. 5 elements demon-suppressing handprint. With one strike, spiritual energy surged wildly, transforming into a vast handprint hundreds of square meters in size, flickering with the spirit light of the five elements, instantly crashing into the mountainside. Boom! A roaring sound tore through the silent forest, and amid the deafening explosion, a giant handprint appeared on the mountainside. The intricate details of the palm were fully impressed in the shattered rocks as the shockwave toppled ancient trees nearby. You've gone too far, you witch. After all this, you still insist on exterminating me? Aren't you afraid of our Guanchao Pavilion's retaliation? Following Su Jie's strike, a suppressed and angry roar came from below. Immediately after, a figure soared into the sky. It was a middle-aged man with disheveled hair. His face was ashen, and his eyes burned with fury as he looked over. However, upon seeing Su Jie, the man was taken aback, because this was not the formidable young woman he had anticipated, the one who had put immense pressure on him. It's been a while, Elder Zhuang. Haven't seen you in good health, eh? A cruel smile crept over Su Jie's lips as he stared intently at Zhuang Liangru. Zhuang Liangru, clad in a robe soaked with poisonous sweat, gave off a faint smell of medicinal herbs and blood. His breathing was ragged and powerful. Each inhalation seemed to swallow the air of the entire forest. Upon closer inspection, one could see that the right side of his body resembled that of a decaying old man. Covered in liver spots, his skin filled with wrinkles, while the left side was engorged with bulging veins which appeared black and purple, twisting like little snakes. Clearly, he had been afflicted with the time poison of the annual ringworm, and his injuries were serious. The overall aura that he gave off to Su Jie was of an old man whose life was hanging by a thread, with half a body already stepping into the coffin, no longer the dominating figure Su Jie had encountered during the sect battle. It's you, you little devil. How did you appear here? Upon recognizing Su Jie's face, Zhuang Liangru shook with shock, his expression one of disbelief. There was indeed no shortage of grievances between Su Jie and him. Su Jie had killed his disciples, slaughtered his sect's immortal seed, and he could credit the failure of the sect's great battle to Su Jie. It wouldn't be exaggerating to say they had a blood feud. Yet Zhuang Liangru found Su Jie's appearance especially surprising. He had thought that the one pursuing him was the Taoist platform realm girl who had appeared at Luyun Manor and inflicted upon him an unbearable strike with a single palm. "Heh! I'm here for one thing only, Elder Zhuang," said Su Jie, his smile unbridled, his eyes ferocious and malicious like those of an evil wolf. Staring at Zhuang Liangru's neck, he spoke coldly. "I plan to borrow the head on Elder Zhuang's shoulders for a bit. After all, since you've offered a bounty of 5 million spirit stones for my head for so long, it's time I reciprocated the gesture." If Zhuang Liangru were in his normal state, Su Jie would stay as far away as possible. But facing a Taoist platform realm cultivator who was more dead than alive due to poison, Su Jie didn't even consider him a threat and saw him merely as his prey. "You're seeking death, a mere secret realm cultivator. Even with poison in my system, you are not someone you can afford to provoke." Zhuang Liangru was suddenly enraged, his face full of angry shame, feeling humiliated as if he were a tiger fallen to flatlands and bullied by dogs. When had he, the supreme elder of the Guanchao Pavilion, a powerful cultivator of the Taoist platform realm, been targeted by someone from the secret realm, or had someone desire his head? Whether or not I can is not for you to say. I've never killed a cultivator of the Taoist platform realm, so today I shall indulge using Elder Zhuang's head. I hope you won't disappoint me. Su Jie's smile grew more deranged, his eyes determined to claim that head. Not even Jesus could stop him. "I'll show you the might of the Taoist platform realm, the difference between you and me. Today, I must slay you, little devil, to prevent future chaos in the world." Zhuang Liangru clasped his hands together, roared angrily, "Heavenly might!" Boom! The mountains underfoot trembled. The ground rapidly rose, forming a man-made volcano. A surging flow of lava spurted out. The terrifying high-temperature lava erupted and flowed unrestrained. An unknown number of thousands of tons of lava fell to the Earth's surface. It was as if a natural disaster struck, turning the land within 1,000 meters into a sea of fire, hell itself. A huge flame giant stood up from the sea of fire, its massive body standing 100 meters tall. Constructed from countless scorching lava, it wore obsidian armor and held a majestic demeanor. It was frantically siphoning the heaven and earth spiritual power from its surroundings, radiating waves of terrifying might. So this is your only move? Su Jie clasped his hands together as well, his gaze cold. Heavenly might! Rumble! Dark clouds tumbled like ocean waves, layer upon layer, turning the sky dome into a pitch-black curtain where not even fingers could be seen. The rolling thunder within the clouds bellowed like roaring beasts. Suddenly, the sky lit up in an instant, as if cleaved by a divine sword that reached from heaven to earth. Thousands upon thousands of thunderbolts crashed down, resembling dancing silver snakes within the dark clouds. Lightning intermingled, transforming into a thunder dragon that lit up the entire horizon. It moved through the dense clouds, emitting a spine-chilling dragon roar mixed with thunder. If Zhuang Liangru's heavenly disaster was a volcanic eruption, then Su Jie's disaster was the annihilation by thunderbolts. A primordial spirit of the God unification level. How is that possible? Zhuang Liangru's pupils contracted sharply. This was a move that could only be used at the God unification level, capable of communicating with heaven and earth to form a man-made disaster. And a primordial spirit of the God unification level, not every cultivator in the Taoist platform realm could fully master and succeed in their cultivation, let alone Su Jie of the secret realm. To achieve the heavenly might of God unification at the secret realm level, that talent was enough to shock even Zhuang Liangru. Go! Su Jie waved a finger, and the thunder dragon moved with his will, its serpentine body emerging from the dark clouds with its head drilling out, claws flailing towards Zhuang Liangru. Zhuang Liangru retreated instantly, while the flame giant roared, moving to confront the thunder dragon. It threw a punch, its fist constructed from fiery magma, like a meteor falling from the sky, heavy and terrifyingly impactful. The thunder dragon dodged upwards, and the fist landed in the forest below, directly blasting a crater 100 meters in diameter. An underground hot spring was ruptured, with fountains turning into steam under the high temperature. The thunder dragon roared, a flick of its tail creating a beam of lightning that acted as a blade of light, slicing at the neck of the flame giant. The neck of the flame giant was severed, the aftermath unstoppable, as ancient trees were sliced in half along its path, and finally, 100-meter-tall hill was shaved down by half. Roar! Hum! The neck of the flame giant surged with flames, regrowing its head, and with the thunder dragon, they roared at each other. Both ferociously attacked, each punch capable of altering the landscape beneath them, creating craters as if meteors had fallen. Every thunderous strike illuminated the night sky, carving trenches and canyons. Eventually, the two behemoths grappled together, with flames and thick bolts of lightning erupting continuously. The thunder dragon coiled around the flame giant. The two colossal creatures of disaster fought from the sky dome down to the ground, triggering successive tremors of level 18 earthquakes. Massive stones shattered, ancient trees snapped, and living creatures within dozens of miles felt the tremors, fleeing their nests in terror. Su Jie stood with his hands behind his back above the sky dome, observing the battle of the titans below. Could be seen as a struggle between two walking disasters, but in essence, it was a battle of spiritual power reserves and primordial spirit strength. Winning a short-term fight was difficult. It would come down to attrition, seeing who would first fail to sustain their spiritual power and primordial spirit. Whoosh! Silently, ripples appeared in the void behind Su Jie. Su Jie didn't look back, because Han Ruyan had already extended her left hand and coldly shouted, "Scram!" A violent white gale erupted from the void, revealing a pitch-black pointed fork which Han Ruyan sent flying. That was none other than a mid-grade magical treasure, the Earth Evil Hidden Void Fork. Without precautions, even someone of the Taoist platform realm could easily be ensnared. With a flash, Zhuang Liangru left behind a trail of afterimages, dashing urgently towards Su Jie. Sea-shattering grand view palm. Zhuang Liangru struck with a palm, unleashing the combined power of thousands upon thousands of colossal waves. Su Jie's face rippled and wrinkled under the pressure. A tsunami-like blue palm descended. Purple light ray. Su Jie seemed unfazed, his eyes emitting a purple light. The purple light ray burned 2 vacuum tracks into the blue palm, punching twin holes through it. Su Jie stood within the holes, the palm passing directly through his body. Afterward, Su Jie and Zhuang Liangru came face to face, now less than 20 meters apart, a distance close enough for hand-to-hand combat. Your attack is really weak and powerless. Is this the Taoist platform realm? Laughable. Su Jie had one hand behind his back while gesturing at Zhuang Liangru with the other, his face filled with provocation and disdain. Damn it! If I weren't afflicted by this poison. Zhuang Liangru's face was ashen. His power was difficult to unleash due to the poison, preventing him from using many powerful moves. Otherwise, Su Jie wouldn't be able to block his attacks so easily. Darling, give him a harsh one. Su Jie, while dividing his attention to control the Thunder Dragon, spoke to Han Ruyan. Han Ruyan's dead-eye gaze turned towards Zhuang Liangru, as the sinister and ominous aura on her body surged dramatically. 7th grade fierce ghost. Elder Zhuang's expression changed drastically as he felt an immense pressure, opting to strike first, forcibly gathering his breath despite the deeper corrosion of poison in his body. Sounds of surging tides emanated from around him, and in the blink of an eye, his spiritual power converged, forming a towering vortex that enveloped both Su Jie and Han Ruyan. This was a lethal technique from the 9 Seas River Map Technique, a top-level cultivation technique of Guanchao Pavilion, crafted by Elder Zhuang. Any cultivator caught in it would find their spiritual power suppressed, and their physical body and divine soul torn apart by the vortex. Netherworld Burial. Han Ruyan raised her left hand, her jade finger lightly tapping. The towering vortex immediately surged with an aura of death, the vegetation in the mountain forest below withering and falling, the creatures rotting and decomposing. What? Elder Zhuang could not believe it. Even the vortex formed from his spiritual power was succumbing to death. Giving the vortex a definition of death, what kind of technique was this? Burial of heaven, burial of earth, burial of all living beings. Han Ruyan's blood-colored wedding dress shone brilliantly, her gaze piercing through the void, and her pitch-black pupils seemed to devour all the surrounding light. Elder Zhuang's body emitted a thick, deathly aura. His clothes had somehow turned into the burial robes worn by the dead, embroidered with a pattern of 5 bats presenting longevity, the robes continuously embedding into his flesh, causing Elder Zhuang to scream uncontrollably in pain as his facial features twisted and deformed, his eyes showing a profound fear of death. His body was already severely damaged due to the poison, and he found it extremely difficult to resist Han Ruyan's killing move. Trying his best to muster his spiritual power continuously dispersed the malicious death curses. However, Han Ruyan did not give him the chance. While Elder Zhuang was still dispersing the curses, Han Ruyan had already drifted over. A pair of lifeless eyes stared at Elder Zhuang, her left hand holding a red lantern, her right hand clutching a brass mirror. The big happiness lantern cast an ominous light, and under its glow, Elder Zhuang's skin and flesh slowly dissolved, like a melting candle. In the brass mirror, Elder Zhuang's deathly face surfaced. Within the mirror, thousands of mirror girls were seen gnawing and tearing at his body, affecting his primordial spirit, which was being incessantly pulled, about to be sucked into the mirror, piece by piece devoured. With the lantern ghost and mirror girl at hand, Han Ruyan planned to have the ghosts conduct Elder Zhuang's funeral. Now! But right as Han Ruyan made her move, Elder Zhuang, with the speed of lightning, swallowed an elixir, easing the agony on his face, and suddenly produced a talisman in his hand, burning it into a streak of golden light that swiftly flew towards Su Jie. The golden light took the form of a stunningly beautiful crow, entirely golden. You're too arrogant, and that will be your downfall. A sneer surfaced on Elder Zhuang's face. This spiritual talisman was one of his trump cards, similar in the way talismans are graded just like magic artifacts. A spiritual talisman amounted to a full power strike of a spiritual treasure, a more astonishing attack than any magical treasure that not even those in the Taoist platform realm could withstand, let alone the secret realm. He attracted Han Ruyan, the terrifying fierce ghost, away from Su Jie by using himself as a lure, creating this deadly opportunity. Yet, just as the golden crow was about to strike, a flash of white light shone on Su Jie's chest, slowing the motion of the golden crow flying towards him. Out of Elder Zhuang's sight, Su Jie had used the 9-grade sacred lotus, which grew 4 lotus leaves, its prowess ever increasing. TCH, as someone of the Taoist platform realm, you're so fond of ambushes, you righteous sect hypocrites are truly despicable. The voice suddenly rang out in front of Elder Zhuang. Faster than the voice was a punch thrown by Su Jie. The punch was blocked by a protective sea pearl magical treasure, Elder Zhuang's protective Dharma treasure, which he had refrained from using until now. While Elder Zhuang was caught in doubt, Su Jie did not stop his offensive. His left hand grasping the wind and thunder fan, he swung it directly at Elder Zhuang. Instantly, winds and thunder roared together. The mad encircling thunder shook the mid-grade magical treasure green sea pearl, but the low-grade magical treasure wind and thunder fan still failed to break through this layer of defense. Thunder rolled. Purple cloud heavenly thunder struck from the sky, and Zhuang Liangru was shocked and enraged to discover tiny cracks forming in the shield of his protective sea pearl. Not giving Zhuang Liangru time to react, Su Jie waved his sleeve and a huge, gaping maw with fang-like, spear-sharp teeth emerged menacingly, ready to crush and devour Zhuang Liangru along with his magical treasure. Although Zhuang Liangru's body was retreating, the vast reach of the gaping maw was too great. It bit through the shield of his protective sea pearl, tearing his body apart from the waist and scattering his searing golden blood. From a distance, it looked as if a terrifying abyss-like mouth suddenly burst out of Su Jie's sleeve. It was the mouth of the thousand-hand centipede, which had reverted to its original form to coordinate a sneak attack with Su Jie. Unfortunately, I'm quite fond of sneak attacks myself. It seems we think alike. Su Jie looked at the remains of Zhuang Liangru's upper body, and a playful smile appeared on his face. At that moment, Su Jie held a wind and thunder fan in his left hand, and a purple jade umbrella circled around him. Both low-grade magical treasures had been plundered from Wei Ji. The thousand-hand centipede revealed its true form, with a body length of 300 meters. Its scale armor glittered with an indestructible luster, like the sturdiest armor covering its robust body. Roar! The thousand-hand centipede floated behind Su Jie, its eyes like bright lamps, radiating a disdain for the world, its teeth like sharp swords, and its thick, coral-like dorsal fins fluctuating in brightness with its breathing, emitting intense heat. It had 7 sharp, spiral horns on its head pointed skyward, displaying an arrogance unmatched. Despite its massive size, it moved gracefully in the air, with countless pale corpse hands pressing emptily around it, its body gently swaying in the air, each sway creating massive waves, seemingly capable of overturning rivers. The thousand-hand centipede chewed, staring fiercely at Zhuang Liangru, like an ancient ferocious beast choosing its prey. The confrontation was over in an instant. The previously paused action of the Golden Crow talisman now resumed, exploding in place, as if another sun had appeared in the sky. Scorching heat waves reached from afar, causing blisters to form on Su Jie's skin. Indeed, it would have been very dangerous if he had been struck by that Golden Crow. 7 refinement poisonous insect. While Zhuang Liangru staunched the flow of blood and sealed his severed waist, his eyes incredibly red, he was staggered by the mountainous size of the thousand-hand centipede. Just half a year ago during the major sect battle, this insect was still a 6 refinement poisonous insect. In just half a year, it had advanced to 7 refinements, a rate of progress that shattered Zhuang Liangru's understanding. Elder Zhuang, how much longer can you hold on? Su Jie pointed at Zhuang Liangru's body, noting the injuries he had caused, as the poison deepened with each use of his spiritual power, turning his entire skin a bizarre black purple. From the fight, Su Jie felt that the strength Zhuang Liangru displayed was greatly restricted. Knowing that magical treasures also required spiritual power to operate, The capabilities of his two mid-grade magical treasures were far from fully utilized due to Zhuang Liangru's limited strength. Little devil! Zhuang Liangru's breathing was heavy, his fists clenched with bulging veins, infuriated beyond endurance by Su Jie's humiliation, which he found utterly intolerable. The next moment, Zhuang Liangru's body surged with spiritual power, his face distorted with ferocity, looking desperate. In reality, he crushed a divine light talisman and then transformed into a rainbow light, immediately fleeing far away. Little devil, today I'll let you off. Once I've recovered, I'll come and settle the score with you. By the time the voice carried over, Zhuang Liangru was already far away, speeding at supersonic speeds. Su Jie's lips twitched slightly, then he sneered, "Heh, not even daring to fight to death. And yet you call yourself the Guanchao Pavilion's supreme elder. And you're waiting to recover? Since you've already called me a little devil, I target exactly your kind, old, weak, and sick. Bullying the weak is precisely our demon path style." Su Jie's palm twitched, and a gigantic 10,000 soul banner appeared. With both hands, he fiercely waved the 10,000 soul banner. Instantly, it was as if a passage from hell to the human world had opened, with a howling cold wind sweeping across the land. The sky and earth darkened, mountains of bones rose from the ground, the netherworld river windingly stretched out, and with a million souls not thriving, the roaring of a million souls shook the heavens and the earth. From a distance, it looked like an ink-washed landscape was spreading across the mountains, a terrifying formation covering everything, trapping Zhuang Liangru inside it. Zhuang Liangru only felt darkness over his head, and the scene before his eyes shifted, bringing him into the midst of the Sunluo ghost domain. The air was filled with blood mist, and 9 white bone mountains stood erect, covered with the bones of unknown creatures. Thousands of souls perched atop the mountains, their cold, twisted bodies densely packed, making the mountains appear as if they had come to life, eerie and terrifying. Beneath the bone mountains, a netherworld river flowed quietly, its waters murky and bottomless, with a small boat crossing back and forth, yet no living person could be seen on board.
Formation.
No, this is a ghost array constructed by the Soul Summoning Banner, a 1,000,000 soul banner level. Zhuang Liangru's face turned deathly pale in an instant. He recognized the origin of the Soul Summoning Banner but felt even more desperate, because with a soul banner of this level, even at his peak, he couldn't be sure he could break through it. Enjoy yourself. My 10,000 soul banner will be excellent with a Taoist platform realm soul as its main soul. Su Jie's voice came from outside, causing Zhuang Liangru to shiver all over. Whether from fear or anger, he couldn't tell. Little devil, how many people did you kill to craft this soul banner? Aren't you afraid of divine punishment for such heinous acts? Zhuang Liangru roared, holding 2 magical treasures in his hands. But they did not bring him any sense of security. You control Luyun Manor to supply you with blood food and create blood elixirs. What right do you have to say such things? Aren't you afraid of being ridiculed? Su Jie sneered twice, waving his hand grandly. Whoosh! Whoosh! Millions of souls moved together, forming a black storm that blotted out the sky and sun. From a distance, it looked like 9 bone mountains spewing black smoke, like erupting doomsday volcanoes, remarkably spectacular. Over 100 ghost generals charged ahead, these towering figures wielding various strange weapons, and in a blink, they were upon Zhuang Liangru. Get out of my way! Zhuang Liangru raised the protection of the green sea pearl, while the golden beads hanging around his neck shone brightly. These were divine soul defense magical treasures designed to effectively counter soul attacks. The rolling soul army crashed in front of Zhuang Liangru like it had struck a solid reef, unable to penetrate further. Foul beings, don't think about getting close to me. With one hand, Zhuang Liangru wielded the earth evil hidden void fork, and with each swing, at least several hundred, and at most thousands of souls were annihilated by this mid-grade magical treasure. Zhuang Liangru also utilized his god unification level primordial spirit to create a man-made disaster, causing a volcano to erupt beneath his feet, its scorching magma igniting many souls, burning them to ashes. Normally, an ordinary 10,000 soul banner wouldn't qualify to challenge someone of the Taoist platform realm. But the numbers of Yin souls in the million soul banner, the numbers Zhuang Liangru had killed, were utterly negligible compared to the vast numbers of Yin souls. Crack, crack, crack. Fine cracks appeared on the green sea pearl's protective barrier. The golden bead magical treasures hanging from his neck shattered one by one, and the volcano at his feet was extinguished by the fearless charge of Yin souls, turning it into a dead volcano. In just a few minutes, Zhuang Liangru was already struggling to continue. Boom! 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 As if dissatisfied with the pace, the 9 bone mountains shook, mobilizing the Yin Qi within the formation, forming a gravitational crush that completely shattered the protection of the green sea pearl. Countless Yin souls, like sharks that smelled blood, became even more frenzied, engulfing Zhuang Liangru entirely, attacking and devouring his primordial spirit. Zhuang Liangru's primordial spirit ignited soul fire, burning many of the approaching Yin souls to nothingness. But there were simply too many Yin souls, each as relentless as moths to a flame. Wave after wave of the 10,000 soul army surged forward, Zhuang Liangru's primordial spirit flickering like a candle in the wind. Swish! 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 The netherworld river surged into the sky, transforming into a celestial river that spanned the heavens and earth, a heavenly waterfall descending from above, engulfing Zhuang Liangru. Ah! 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 Zhuang Liangru let out a shrill scream, his primordial spirit eroded by the netherworld river waters like molten steel on ice, vast swathes of soul power evaporating, his primordial spirit riddled with holes. The rolling Yin soul army found their opportunity and charged directly into Zhuang Liangru's sea of consciousness, wreaking havoc, tearing his soul apart, splitting his primordial spirit into pieces. I'm not reconciled. How could I possibly die at the hands of the secret realm? I still have. Zhuang Liangru's pupils dilated, his life force ebbing as his primordial spirit was torn apart. Liangru, hold on. I'm coming to save you. Suddenly, just at this critical moment, a furious roar thundered. From the distant horizon, a figure streaked rapidly across the sky. It was a middle-aged man with fiery red eyebrows, a robust build, and an imposing face. From a great distance came a powerful slap. Spiritual power transformed into a roaring water dragon, striking directly at the 10,000 soul array formed by the Netherworld Bone Mountain Formation. The entire formation shook violently, numerous Yin souls directing their gaze towards the incoming figure, accelerating their attack on Zhuang Liangru within the shaking formation. Brother Zhao, save me. Hearing this voice, Zhuang Liangru, who had been despairing and waiting for death, saw a glimmer of hope in his eyes. The approaching man was the assistance he had secretly requested from Guanchao Pavilion after escaping from Luyun Manor, his fellow disciple, Zhao Juanda. Zhao Juanda, driving the water dragon, urgently said, "Wait for me a moment. I'm about to open the ghost banner and rescue you." He consumed spiritual power, a wave after wave of a massive tsunami emerging behind him, continuously assaulting the Netherworld Whitebone Formation, seeking to break the 10,000 soul banners array and rescue Zhuang Liangru from within. You don't really think you can survive this, do you? Su Jie's figure appeared within the formation of the 10,000 soul banner, landing in front of Zhuang Liangru with a cold smirk, a palm striking down towards the top of Zhuang Liangru's skull.
No.
Zhuang Liangru's eyes were filled with despair. His primordial spirit was wounded all over, his spiritual power exhausted, and not even the strength to lift his arm remained. Faced with Su Jie's sudden attack, all he could muster was a bitter cry of unwillingness. "How dare you, you scoundrel!" Zhao Juanda's eyes were split with fury, erupting in a sky-shaking roar. Amidst Zhao Juanda's roaring, Su Jie's palm crushed Zhuang Liangru's head, spattering brain and blood in all directions. The barely emerging broken primordial spirit was instantly gnawed upon by a group of Yin souls, then absorbed by the 10,000 soul banner, not only compensating for the recent loss of Yin souls but also enhancing the power of the banner. To kill another, what do I have to fear? Su Jie laughed wildly, casually taking Zhuang Liangru's storage bag and tossing it in his palm right in front of Zhao Juanda. "Today, I swear I will kill you." Zhao Juanda, burning with rage, began to attack the netherworld Bone Mountain formation with reckless abandon. Thunderous waves towered to the sky, spiritual power surged like an ocean, forming rolling smoke that made the sky dome tremble. The 10,000 soul banner let out the sound of tearing cloth. 9 bone mountains fractured. The netherworld river flowed backward, and the formation was being breached little by little. It must be said, Zhao Juanda's attack was extremely powerful, far surpassing the poisoned and handicapped Zhuang Liangru. Boom! Suddenly, a gap burst in the netherworld Bone Mountain formation, and Zhao Juanda charged in atop a water dragon. "Take your death." The majestic water dragon under Zhao Juanda slithered and charged forward. His arms pushed down, and hundreds of water dragon spirals sealed off the area surrounding Su Jie. "Let's see the true mettle of the Taoist platform realm." Su Jie waved the 10,000 soul banner. The netherworld river rose into the air once more, and 1,000,000 Yin souls screamed and roared, rushing forth in a frenzied surge. Evil suppression gold seal. Banish and slay demons. A unique treasure seal appeared in Zhao Juanda's hands, inscribed with strange characters and patterns of countless mortals kneeling in prayer. As the evil suppression gold seal descended, the prayers of countless mortals echoed from the void. This was a weapon of faith, consecrated for 1,000 years at Guanchao Pavilion, receiving the faith of numerous disciples and countless mortals, possessing inconceivable power. With just one strike, the netherworld river was cleaved midway, thousands of Yin souls reduced to ash, their wails dissipating in the air. On the face of the 10,000 soul banner, a hand-sized hole had appeared, causing Su Jie great distress. Roar! The 1,000-hand centipede's massive body charged and rammed around. A single swing of its tail could easily snap even a several hundred-meter-tall building. Zhao Juanda opened his mouth and spat out a sword pill, which instantly turned into a dazzling silver flying sword. Commanding this mid-grade magical treasure flying sword, he transformed it into a 100-zhang giant sword and clashed with the 1,000-hand centipede. A thunderous roar spread across the entire sky dome. The body of the 1,000-hand centipede burst open where it was struck, its flesh muddled. The flying sword was also knocked flying away, before transforming into 10,000 tiny flying swords and heading towards the 1,000-hand centipede once again. The 1,000-hand centipede also split into a multitude of pale corpse hands and smaller centipedes, with the pale corpse hands harboring the curse poison of the Death Decline curse cloud, while the small centipedes spat out purple light rays from their mouths. As the fierce battle raged on, Han Ruyan silently made her move. A blood moon emerged above Zhao Juanda's head, the ominous blood moon enveloping him, intent on dragging him into itself. Child's play. With a light shout from Zhao Juanda, the evil suppression gold seal erupted, and billions of golden light instantly evaporated the blood moon. Crack! One of Han Ruyan's hands pierced through the golden light, eerily aiming for Zhao Juanda's chest. The blood-colored wedding dress blocked the golden light, even though more holes appeared on the dress. What a fierce ghost! Zhao Juanda's brow furrowed. It was as though an invisible hand was squeezing his heart. Not even the evil suppression gold seal could completely immunize him from this bizarre assault. Fresh blood spilled from the corner of his mouth as he suffered a minor injury. But he disregarded it, seizing the evil suppression gold seal and fiercely smashing it down towards Han Ruyan. Bang! Han Ruyan was sent flying, her figure becoming much more ethereal. The evil suppression gold seal was especially effective against the purely evil beings such as Han Ruyan and the 10,000 soul banner. Seas of destruction, yin and yang in chaotic harmony. Kill for me. Zhao Juanda formed a spell with his hands, and behind him a vast blue sea mirage emerged, breaking through the formation of the soul-summoning banner and rolling with a great momentum towards Su Jie. The 1,000-hand centipede stood in front of Su Jie. Zhao Juanda waved his hand and said coldly, Kuanping 9 heaven skill. Soaring upward, the water strikes for 3,000 miles. The sea whipped up terrifying waves, turning into a flying Kuanping. With a sweep of its wings, it directly blasted the 1,000-hand centipede away. Its insect shell severely shattered, hitting a mountain peak a kilometer away. Large quantities of rocks collapsed. Scalding insect blood was scattered, forming pools of blood in the recesses of the ground. At this moment, Zhao Juanda was displaying the power of a fully capable practitioner of the Dao platform realm, hardly comparable to the half-dead state of Zhuang Liangru. This is the gap between us. My Taoist platform realm second-level cultivation allows me to combat against the fourth level with the evil suppression gold seal. What do you have to fight with me? Zhao Juanda's gaze was ice-cold as he stared at Su Jie. In the secret realm, the primary cultivation was of the 5 viscera, and the essence of each viscus connected to one of the 7 orifices. This is the direction of cultivation in the Dao platform realm. The 7 orifices correspond to the sea of consciousness, with each orifice opened corresponding to one realm, totaling 7 realms. At his Dao platform realm second level, combined with the evil suppression gold seal, he was quite powerful in the Dao platform realm. However, just as Zhao Juanda was flaunting, he suddenly found that he could not move his legs. A pair of embroidered shoes were on his feet. Those were Ru Yan's abilities. Ru Yan, expressionless, tore the blood-colored wedding dress apart and forcefully opened the protection of the evil suppression gold seal, allowing her eerie power to affect Zhao Juanda. At the same time, the thousand-handed centipede crawled out again from the collapsing rocks. Its mouth opened and spouted a stream of skyfire breath, forming a horrifying column of fire dozens of meters in diameter. Zhao Juanda's face shifted slightly. The evil suppression gold seal's light dispersed the embroidered shoe on his left foot, but the one on his right foot remained. Gritting his teeth, he severed his own right foot with his flying sword and immediately moved to dodge the incoming attack. Almost as soon as Zhao Juanda dodged, like a meteor striking the earth, the scorching pillar of fire smashed down. The ground within a kilometer rippled like waves. The soil was ripped apart in large swathes, and the shocking shockwaves swept all around, forming a semi-domed bowl of fire. After the impact, a supercrater with a diameter of over 300 meters and nearly 100 meters deep was left, containing a lake formed by the high temperatures inside. Seeing the terrifying power of the skyfire breath, Zhao Juanda looked disturbed and anguished. While swallowing an elixir, Zhao Juanda's right foot slowly regrew. He fixed his gaze intensely on Ru Yan standing opposite him. Ru Yan was not faring well either. Forcibly resisting the attack from the evil suppression gold seal, the color of her blood-colored wedding dress began fading. With such a level of power, even being only from the secret realm, you pose a threat to the Taoist platform realm. Leaving you alive would definitely be disastrous. Under the coordination of Ru Yan and the thousand-handed centipede, Zhao Juanda, feeling a formidable threat, clapped his hands together and fully activated the evil suppression gold seal, burning the faith power inside. Ru Yan and the thousand-handed centipede could no longer approach as the fully activated evil suppression gold seal was extremely formidable. Truly troublesome. Su Jie's expression was grave. The higher the cultivation realm, the greater the difference between each level, and the difficulty of fighting across levels increased, especially since his opponent was at the second level of the Taoist platform realm. With that thought, Su Jie placed his right hand on his forehead, and a heavenly eye opened. He then activated the ancient mirror inside his sea of consciousness, and an abyss-like terrifying aura started emanating from him. Crack. Above Su Jie's head, the Tao River was opened through a temporary channel, with the staggering Tao energies flowing into the present world. Su Jie's primordial spirit left his body, and then split into two. One half of the primordial spirit returned to his physical body, while the other half began absorbing the energy gushing from the Tao River, rapidly expanding and transforming into a fearsome creature. It was of enormous stature, like a majestic mountain, with wings on its back, lacking distinct hands and feet, and wearing a face of only vortexes with no ordinary human features. Within the vortex, a solitary eye, red and black in color, hinting at the reflection of the human soul, was faintly visible. Its body was not made entirely of flesh and blood. Some parts consisted of flames, some of ice, and others of flesh. The body was composed of Tao energies, matter and energy. This is Dharma form, impossible. Zhao Juanda stood frozen on the spot, staring dumbly at the terrifying creature that appeared. That was a Dharma form only usable by those at the Yang God level with a God-level primordial spirit. Simply put, it was the weaponization of the primordial spirit. Insufficient strength meant that a God unification level primordial spirit was unlikely to condense it. Dharma form chaos. Su Jie's face contorted fiercely, operating the Dharma form, which was extremely stressful for him at his God unification level, making it feel as though his entire body was about to explode. Boom! The next moment, half of Su Jie's body actually burst open, and the Chaos Dharma form was finally activated, with the solitary eye at the center of the vortex opening. Crack! The red and black solitary eye, like the starlight in the depths of the universe, burst out with a dazzling flare of starlight. Zhao Juanda couldn't even dodge and could only urge the evil suppression gold seal to its maximum for protection. Thunderous booms. Zhao Juanda's primordial spirit was largely annihilated. The Dharma form, being the weaponization of the primordial spirit, was the most efficient attack for Su Jie to use against a primordial spirit. At this point, Zhao Zhen's primordial spirit had left his body. The God unification level primordial spirit had almost no difference from his real person. But before this beam of starlight, even with the protection of the evil suppression gold seal, Zhao Juanda's primordial spirit was incessantly shattered, with the soul tearing apart in excruciating pain. Zhao Juanda screamed continuously. His body, like one drunk, started to wildly fly around, smashing the surrounding mountains, breaking countless ancient trees. Su Jie too possessed a God unification level primordial spirit, but after wielding it as a Dharma form, it was like colliding a steel rod with a wooden stick. The difference in quality was clear, and inevitably the wooden stick broke. I will kill, 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 kill. As his primordial spirit sustained damage, Zhao Juanda also began to lose his mind, attacking aimlessly. His subconscious targeted Su Jie, urging the evil suppression gold seal, causing the thousand-handed centipede and Ru Yen to continually retreat. Retreat. The scene was not only damaging for Zhao Juanda. Despite his endurance, Su Jie barely managed to utter those words. The half-split primordial spirit, along with that Dharma form, disintegrated, and Su Jie had to endure the backlash of the Dao's injury, leaving his body severely weakened. The thousand-handed centipede and Ru Yen were also not in good conditions. With Zhao Juanda protected by the evil suppression gold seal, Su Jie knew his move couldn't kill him. Considering, too, that Ru Yen and the thousand-handed centipede were unlikely to succeed, there was no better time to flee than now. Once Zhao Juanda recuperated, escaping would become more difficult, not to mention the uncertainty of whether Zhao Juanda had reinforcements coming. Leaving now was the best option. Su Jie immediately put away the 10,000 soul banner, and the thousand-hand centipede carried him and Han Ruyan away from the place at high speed. Minutes later, as everything calmed down, Zhao Juanda was half kneeling on the ground, his appearance utterly disheveled, his hair wild, blood streaming from all 7 orifices, his primordial spirit covered in cracks as if it were a piece of porcelain about to shatter. Had it not been for the evil suppression gold seal above his head, his state would have been far more miserable. This was the peril of a soul attack. Even Zhao Juanda, who was a whole major cultivation realm higher than Su Jie, had suffered severe damage to his primordial spirit and had been out of commission for several minutes after Su Jie fiercely struck him with his Dharma form. When Zhao Juanda had recovered and wanted to search for Su Jie's figure, there was no trace of him to be found. Su Jie, I swear I won't rest until I have avenged this. Zhao Juanda roared in rage towards the sky, wishing he could capture Su Jie and flay him alive. You won't have the chance to take revenge with your own hands. Suddenly, an indifferent voice as cold as snow sounded behind Zhao Juanda. Who's there? Zhao Juanda, pale with shock, turned his head only to see a cold, detached woman standing behind him. You're the disciple of the enemy I have to kill, so you're also an enemy. When dealing with enemies, one must eradicate them root and stem. Ning Yunying reached out with one hand and, under Zhao Juanda's incredulous gaze, directly seized the evil suppression gold seal, playing with it in her hand. No matter how much it radiated golden light, it couldn't escape from her grasp. The evil suppression gold seal that had given Su Jie such a headache now lay powerless in Ning Yuning's hand. Then Ning Yuning swung the evil suppression gold seal as if it were a brick and smashed it down. Boom! Zhao Juanda's upper body exploded into pieces, leaving only his 2 legs standing in place. Whoosh! A streak of light burst out of his shattered body and fled rapidly away. It was indeed Zhao Juanda's primordial spirit. Taoist Platform Realm 5th Layer, you're actually of the Taoist Platform Realm 5th Layer in cultivation. The face of Zhao Juanda's primordial spirit was full of terror at this moment. He couldn't comprehend how this woman had cultivated to such an extent, reaching the 5th layer of the Taoist Platform Realm at such a young age, with her combat abilities far surpassing that level. Because no cultivator of the 5th level of the Taoist Platform Realm could possibly catch his evil suppression gold seal single-handedly, only someone with strength far surpassing his could accomplish this with such brute force. After returning, I must report to the sect leader so that he, Zhao Juanda, was desperately holding on to a breath of life in his heart, only wishing to flee from this terrifying female devil. His primordial spirit could survive for a week, enough time for him to return to Guanchao Pavilion where, with the use of secret techniques, there was a chance for him to survive. Although such magic skills were quite of the demon path, to stay alive, he could no longer care so much. While Zhao Juanda was still contemplating his future, Ning Yuning had no intention of letting him go. Without so much as a glance at the escaping him, Ning Yuning calmly formed a spell with her hands. Dharma form gluttony. The void vibrated, and the Tao River opened up as if a terror from a long slumber had awoken. A gruesome head and horns emerged from the void, its body bizarre and complicated, immensely vast like a floating island, with a massive and ferocious beast's head, limbs ending in tremendous claws, bulging eyes like burning fireballs radiating intense light. Its mouth corners curled upwards, opening slightly to reveal an unfathomably dark abyss as if leading to endless depths. Upon its appearance, the forest beneath, the soil, rocks, and small creatures began to be erased bit by bit as if consumed by some invisible being. Zhao Juanda found himself uncontrollably flying towards this grotesque behemoth, his body erasing piece by piece in the process, as if it were being wiped away by an eraser out of this space. You are a Yang. Zhao Juanda's primordial spirit was utterly powerless to resist, only capable of letting out a cry of horror. He could never have imagined that he would encounter a Yang god here, this extremely high realm of the soul. Yang gods are exceedingly firm and positive beings, immune to all evil, majestic as the sun reigning over the heavens, drawing in all the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, living for 1,000 years. They can cause the sun and the moon to deviate from their paths, and the stars to lose their positions. They can cause the yang qi to overflow, leading to floods, and all things lose their vitality. A yang god of the Taoist Platform Realm capable of refining their primordial spirit to such levels and effortlessly employing Dharma form to attack. Compared to such an entity, Zhao Juanda, even with the evil suppression gold seal, was not on the same level at all, and could be easily suppressed and crushed by hand. Splat! Before Zhao Juanda could finish his last words, his entire primordial spirit disappeared into the abyss-like maw of the Dharma form. A once formidable cultivator of the Taoist Platform Realm thus perished in the nameless mountain range. As though she had done something trivial, Ning Yuning looked toward the direction Su Jie had left, waved her hand to disperse the Dharma form, and then turned to leave coolly. Several days later, inside a certain cave, a bonfire was burning. The cave's former owner, a brown bear, was suspended on a roasting spit, its golden roasted flesh glistening as fat dripped down bit by bit. The 1,000-hand centipede was perched on the spit, chomping down on the bare meat in huge bites. Its severed body had regrown, and it now needed to replenish its nutrients. Han Ruyan sat quietly. Her blood-colored wedding dress had regained its bright luster, and her body, which had been injured by the evil suppression gold seal, had mostly recovered. Next to the bonfire, Su Jie sat cross-legged on the ground, palms facing up, with the 9-grade sacred lotus in front of him. Flecks of sacred radiance were dissipating into the void, imbued with abundant spiritual energy and vitality, which Su Jie absorbed. The previously desiccated meridians inside his body were continuously regaining their vitality and circulation, nourished by the spring-like spiritual power. Ha! Exhaling a breath of stale air, Su Jie slowly opened his eyes. This injury from the way was too severe. It took me several days to recover. Su Jie murmured to himself. It was already the 5th day since he had left, and only now had his injuries fully healed. Among these, physical injuries were considered light. Mainly, it was because Su Jie had forcefully used the Dharma form to fight against enemies at the God unification level. Even though Su Jie had the mysterious ancient mirror to help condense the Dharma form, using it in battle was still too much of a stretch. It was like a child swinging a hammer weighing dozens of pounds, prone to injure both others and oneself. Su Jie's primordial spirit had been damaged because of wielding the Dharma form and required several days to recover with the assistance of the 9-grade sacred lotus. Yet, through this battle, Su Jie gained a clear understanding of his current strength. Reliant on the 7th-grade marrying ghost and the 7 refinements thousand-handed centipede, along with his own combat power, he should be able to confront and defeat an enemy who had recently ascended to the 1st tier of the Taoist platform realm with a 70% chance of victory. But against enemies of higher levels within the Taoist platform realm, with deeper experience, more treasures, and a greater variety of secret moves and techniques, Su Jie would find it hard to continue the fight. Take Zhao Juanda, for example, with his evil suppression gold seal. It was too potent a restraint against the soul-summoning banner and Han Ruyan. Overall, Su Jie was quite satisfied with the outcome of the fight. Although he had sustained some injuries, the rewards were plentiful. Su Jie took out a storage bag, precisely the one Zhuang Liangru always carried with him, which now served as Su Jie's spoils of war. As Su Jie broke the prohibitions inside the storage bag and opened it, he was dazzled by a vast array of treasure light, the spirit stones and spiritual materials within catching his eye. Clattering sounds. Su Jie emptied the contents of the storage bag, piling up heaps of mid-grade spirit stones and top-grade spirit stones into a small hill. Jade bottles shimmering with spirit light were neatly arranged, each containing elixirs for healing, detoxification, accelerating cultivation, enhancing comprehension, and so on, the total count reaching over 1,000. In midair, talismans suspended with glowing Tao patterns scrawled upon them. These talismans were mainly of the auxiliary variety, as the talismans used for combat had been mostly depleted during the large-scale sect war and the battle with Su Jie. Besides these, there were large quantities of spiritual materials and dozens of exquisite magic artifacts, which Zhuang Liangru likely meant to bestow upon his disciples. In addition to 2 mid-grade magical treasures confiscated from Zhuang Liangru's possession, the Green Sea Pearl and the Earth Evil Hidden Void Fork, a single mid-grade magical treasure was worth 3 million spirit stones, with defensive treasures being more expensive, sometimes reaching 4 million spirit stones. Adding up everything inside the storage bag, Su Jie estimated a staggering value of approximately 15 million spirit stones. It's worth noting that the entire fortune of a common person from the secret realm was only a few 100,000 spirit stones. Zhuang Liangru truly deserved the title of a Taoist platform realm powerhouse. His wealth made Su Jie incredibly astonished, probably linked to Zhuang Liangru's status as the Guanchao Pavilion's Supreme Elder. Being the Supreme Elder within Qingzhou's No. 1 sect, Zhuang Liangru surely had numerous ways to make money, probably receiving hefty tributes every month. If it were before the sect's Great War, this old man's wealth might have been even greater.
Su Jie reflected deeply.
Zhuang Liangru must have spent a considerable fortune during the sect war and in treating the poison, making it impossible for Su Jie to estimate how rich Zhuang Liangru would have been at his peak. In the past, Su Jie earned barely 10 or more low-grade spirit stones a month by capturing insects at Ghost Ridge Palace. Compared to Zhuang Liangru, he was practically a beggar. Unbeknownst to himself, Su Jie had grown to the extent that he could slay a revered Taoist platform realm adversary, claiming his fortune overnight and becoming incredibly wealthy. Although it was against a half-dead Zhuang Liangru, he was indeed a Taoist platform realm figure, and that was no fabrication. Should the news get back to Ghost Ridge Palace, it would probably shock the jaws of many there. Su Jie glanced at the thousand-hand centipede, then took out a portion of the spirit stones to strengthen its parts. After ascending to the 7th grade, the Thousand-Hand Centipede's requirements for spirit stones for enhancements had increased, but Su Jie was not stingy. In addition to the enhancement, Su Jie returned to Blue Star once to retrieve a large supply of poisonous insects to feed to the Thousand-Hand Centipede and replenish the Een soul that the 10,000 soul banner had consumed by absorbing the souls of live pigs. After several more days, Su Jie finally emerged from the mountains and set off towards the direction of Heavenly Soul Sect. Killing Zhuang Liangru was an accident. Su Jie's purpose for leaving the sect this time was still to acquire a large number of ghosts at Heavenly Soul Sect. Nanyang City. Nanyang City could be considered one of the top cities in Qingzhou, with a large population and thriving commerce. Situated along a trade route, the foot traffic of merchants and travelers brought significant economic vitality and a commercial atmosphere this way. But that was the Nanyang City of the past. Today's Nanyang City had become widely known as Ghost City. The Heavenly Soul Sect from Jingzhou forcefully took over this city, turning it into their main base and a production line for the essence of fear. By arranging for ghosts to haunt Nanyang City, causing the living to be in constant fear all day long. Every nightfall, ghosts would venture out to hunt along the streets. And through the primordial spirit pearls bestowed upon the common folk, they harvested the people's fear continuously, as fodder for the sect's fierce ghosts. The actions of the Heavenly Soul Sect had become increasingly rampant, not just within Nanyang City. The nearby small cities and villages had also been brought under the influence of the Heavenly Soul Sect, with frequent appearances of ghastly beings in these areas. When the commoners attempted to flee, they would be stopped by the disciples of the Heavenly Soul Sect. Using fierce ghosts to drive the people back into their homes, they terrorized them and occasionally killed a few to serve as a warning to others. With such methods, the area around Nanyang City had become a place everyone in Qingzhou spoke of with dread, and no one dared to venture too deep into it anymore. Yet today, a carriage slowly made its appearance in this region so feared by the people of Qingzhou. The sound of horse hooves clattered against the ground as it approached the main gate of Nanyang City. Atop the city walls, several Heavenly Soul Sect disciples looked on in surprise. At such a time, someone still dared to enter Nanyang City, which they found completely baffling. What's the situation with this carriage? Didn't the Guardian Hall say all the guests had arrived? Be careful, it might be a ploy by the righteous sect. They have always wanted to deal with us at the Heavenly Soul Sect. Recently, with the sect master's 300th birthday celebration, we can't afford to let the righteous sect cause trouble and ruin the sect master's mood. Understood. This is our stronghold. If the righteous sect dares to come here, we'll make sure they won't return. Several inner disciples of the Heavenly Soul Sect whispered amongst themselves, and then cautiously operated the fierce ghosts, holding soul-summoning banners in their hands as they approached the carriage, alert to any threats. However, as those Heavenly Soul Sect disciples drew near, their fierce ghosts suddenly froze, acting distressed and unwilling to move closer to where the carriage was. I am Master Su Jie, Hall Master of the Puppet Hall from Ghost Ridge Palace, and I have come to visit the Heavenly Soul Sect today. Right then, a voice resonated from inside the carriage, catching several Heavenly Soul Sect disciples off guard. And when they saw the curtains of the carriage drawn back, revealing the faces of Su Jie and Han Ruyan, their pupils involuntarily constricted even further. Corpse hand manslaughter. It's corpse hand manslaughter. The face that matched the wanted poster exactly took the Heavenly Soul Sect disciples by complete surprise. After killing Wei Ji, Su Jie's name had become quite well known in Qingzhou, and many disciples and elders of the sect, who had taken part in the Great Sect War, had witnessed Su Jie's mighty prowess. Su Jie's strength had been recognized as unparalleled within the secret realm, almost an invincible existence among his peers. Now, unexpectedly faced with the infamous powerhouse of the secret realm, these disciples who only had Yunling realm cultivation felt an indescribable pressure. Master Su gracing us with your presence. I will immediately notify the elders of the sect. Please, come inside. The leading disciple at the Yunling realm's 7th level quickly reacted, swallowing nervously as he spoke hastily. Thank you. Su Jie, with a smile on his face, was extremely humble and courteous, which relieved the disciples of the Heavenly Soul sect a great deal. Many elders from the demon sects were notoriously bad-tempered, each seemingly suffering from some sort of superiority complex, where one could unwittingly offend them and not even know how they died. The carriage slowly entered Nanyang City, and what caught Su Jie's attention were the city walls, 6 feet high and engraved with strange runes, forming a massive formation. Despite it being noon, Nanyang City was bustling with activity. The sounds of street hawkers and trade filled the air, with many farmers from nearby villages carrying their vegetables and grain to sell. Su Jie remembered his last visit to Nanyang City. At the time, the streets had been desolate and empty, with few pedestrians to be seen, as most people stayed indoors. But now, Su Jie noticed that the eyes of these commoners were filled with numbness and vigilance, although they had to come out onto the streets out of necessity to make a living. Moreover, many places in the city were decorated with red silk, made up to look festive. In some inns and taverns, Su Jie also noticed that there were quite a few sect disciples dressed differently from the Heavenly Soul sect, going in and out. These people, judging by their attire, were not from the Heavenly Soul sect, but without exception, each radiated a murderous aura, likely individuals from demon sects. "What is your name?" Su Jie asked the Heavenly Soul sect disciple accompanying the carriage. Responding to Master Su, "My name is Li Chunhai." This inner disciple of the Heavenly Soul sect, who was at the 7th level of the Yunling realm, respectfully replied, "Your Heavenly Soul sect seems to have a celebration recently. Why is the city decorated with red and ornaments? And there are also many people from other sects. Our sect master will soon celebrate his 300th birthday, and many close friends from our Heavenly Soul sect have come from thousands of miles away to attend the banquet. That's why there is such a grand occasion." Li Chunhai spoke with pride, appearing honored to be part of it. "Oh, it seems I have arrived at quite the right time." Su Jie raised his eyebrows, musing thoughtfully. The Heavenly Soul sect had come from Jingzhou after their mountain gate was breached, and the entire sect collectively relocated and fled to Qingzhou. According to Su Jie's understanding, although the righteous sects also held the upper hand in Jingzhou, there were still quite a few demon sects existing there. Moreover, to the south of Jingzhou, bordering Chongzhou, was one of the few areas within the Deli dynasty where demon path forces could stand against the righteous sects. That place was also known as the last flourishing land of the demon path, which was very different from the situation in Qingzhou, where only Ghost Ridge Palace remained as a single entity. Of course, from a broader perspective, the demon sect forces were all in decline. Among the 16 provinces of the Deli dynasty, places like Chongzhou were rare. In most provinces like Qingzhou, the demon path was suppressed by the righteous sects, with only 1 or 2 demon sects barely surviving. So it was no surprise to Su Jie that the Heavenly Soul sect knew other demon sects. As for why Ghost Ridge Palace wasn't invited to the grand birthday celebration, on one hand, the relationship between Ghost Ridge Palace and Heavenly Soul sect was only formed during a sect war. After the sect war, the 2 demon sects cooperated with underlying opposition and each held grudges. Ghost Ridge Palace was very unhappy that the Heavenly Soul sect had moved into Qingzhou to claim territory and resources. One mountain cannot accommodate 2 tigers, but because of the threat from the righteous sects, Ghost Ridge Palace had to tolerate Heavenly Soul sect's presence, as it drew considerable attention from the righteous sects. Therefore, before departing, Su Jie had not heard anything about the Heavenly Soul sect planning any sect master's grand birthday. Clearly, the Heavenly Soul sect did not invite Ghost Ridge Palace to participate. Otherwise, Su Jie would have known about it. While pondering, Su Jie suddenly felt a divine sense sweeping over the carriage. Su Jie's expression immediately turned serious. The ability to use divine sense to see objects across space, akin to a cultivator's version of radar, was a capability only possessed after mastering one's primordial spirit in the secret realm, and was a common scouting method in the secret realm. However, normally, using divine sense to view others was very impolite and provocative. This was akin to someone peeping through a telescope from a distance, except during combat. Under normal circumstances, no one would rashly use divine sense to scout others. It was too easy to offend people. Ignorant of life and death. In an instant, Su Jie's primordial spirit opened his eyes. His divine sense surged like a raging tsunami, instantly shattering that divine sense and spreading along the same path, thunderously landing inside a two-story tavern. Crack! The entire wooden tavern, under the spirit pressure and divine sense, began to teeter, with beams and columns making an overwhelmed noise. A young man dressed in purple robes, holding a folding fan, wearing a square cap, and with a refined appearance let out a muffled groan, spitting out a mouthful of fresh blood, staining the front of his shirt, his face a mix of shock and anger. Whiz! 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 The tavern owner and servers desperately ran out, while from the second-floor windows, silhouettes flashed out, quickly reaching the street outside. Boom! The next second, the entire tavern collapsed with a roar, raising clouds of dust. Li Chunhai, who stood beside the carriage, only felt two powerful pressures clash before the tavern collapsed. His face immediately turned pale, as he knew this had something to do with Su Jie. Provoking a major conflict in the secret realm was no small matter. Inside the collapsing tavern, a young man smashed through the crumbling building and walked out with an unfriendly gaze. Seeing this young man, Li Chunhai's face became even tenser, because this young man was from a demon sect in Chongzhou, the sect saint son of the blood demon cave, Chang Shiyang, who even at a young age possessed a cultivation of the secret realm. Misunderstandings, all misunderstandings. Li Chunhai's face drained of color, his mind nearly crashed, wondering how he, a mere 7th-level Yunling realm inner disciple, had got caught up in a conflict between two secret realm cultivators. What's the background of this person? Su Jie's voice was calm, betraying little emotion. He's the saint heir of the blood demon cave from the Chongzhou demon path, Chang Shiyang. Li Chunhai explained cautiously and tried to reassure Su Jie. Master Su, don't fight here. There's no need to start a dispute over nothing. Su Jie sneered. Heh, this is hardly without reason. What arrogance. Not even showing your face in front of this saint heir and resorting to tricks and illusions. At the same time, Chang Shiyang wiped away the blood from the corner of his mouth and glared furiously in Su Jie's direction. Still inside the carriage, Su Jie's aloof demeanor only added to Chang Shiyang's irritation, already bruised by the confrontation. Because of the commotion, a large crowd of onlookers had already gathered, with elders and disciples from various sects who had come to attend the celebration now turning their attention this way. Who do you think you are to deserve my full attention? Su Jie's voice from inside the carriage made Chang Shiyang's temples throb with rage. They say Su Jie is Qingzhou's demon path prodigy. I didn't expect him to be someone who dares not show his face. I was just testing you to verify the rumors. It seems they were indeed greatly exaggerated. Not daring to show your true face, and yet you call yourself a demon path prodigy? Truly laughable. As Chang Shiyang spoke, he once again activated his divine sense with full force, spreading toward the carriage, still indignant over having been overwhelmed by Su Jie's divine sense. The other Demon Path sect members from around were also surprised and intrigued to hear the name Su Jie. Since they had entered Qingzhou, they too had heard many rumors about the demon sect, especially about the great sect war that had occurred more than half a year ago, which had become the talk of both streets and alleys, gossip among the populace. And the name Su Jie was an inevitable subject when it came to the sect war. Whether it was the killing of Wei Ji, the righteous sect's prodigy, or fighting alone against 5 secret realm elders, these exploits were indeed grand. These demon path sects were skeptical about the authenticity of the intelligence. After all, after being passed from person to person, much of the true information would be inflated and exaggerated, leaving room for doubt. Take Chang Shiyang, for example. He belonged to those who were doubtful. As the saint heir of the blood demon cave, Chang Shiyang had enjoyed a comfortable life since childhood, constantly praised within his sect. At his young age of just 20, he had advanced to the secret realm, already possessing second-level cultivation, seen as a favored son of heaven by the masses. Beyond cultivation, he was also quite capable in actual combat. Even among the many demon path sects in Chongzhou, he was considered one of the most formidable, a paragon among the younger generation of cultivators. That's why he had tried to test Su Jie just now, to gauge the true value of this top talent from Qingzhou, only to end up utterly humiliated. This time, his spreading divine sense had hints of blood in it. Normally invisible and intangible, Chang Shuyang made his divine sense materialize like a spread of blood-red sunset glow, using a sort of primordial spirit cultivation method derived from the blood demon cave, which made his divine sense more domineering. Boom! Just as the blood-red sunset glow touched the carriage, a frigidly white arm extended out, making a gentle wave. It was as though a tsunami with its towering waves had plunged into an abyss, vanishing instantly, completely devoured by that hand. Chang Shuyang's face changed rapidly. A strange, ominous power was engulfing and corrupting his divine sense, eradicating it into nothingness. Without giving Chang Shuyang time to react, the owner of the white arm slowly stepped down from the carriage. She was dressed in a red wedding gown with crimson lightning snaking over it, mighty and terrifying. On her head, she wore a golden phoenix crown, with a phoenix hairpin full of pearls, and as she moved, the phoenix crown seemed to dance above her elegant updo. She was a breathtakingly beautiful woman, exuding an air of regal, refined grace. When the onlookers saw this woman, they all felt a tingling scalp and their bodies began to shudder. A physical warning to stay away from this dangerous woman. 7th grade fierce ghost. Li Chunhai, standing next to the carriage, saw it all too clearly. Yet, the clearer he saw, the more parched his mouth felt, his limbs turning weak. He could tell that Han Ruyan was a fierce ghost, and not just any but a 7th grade fierce ghost, one whose appearance made the other fierce ghosts behind him step back, even kneel as if in homage to an empress majestic and supreme. Just as the disciples of Ghost Ridge Palace could easily determine the grade of a poisonous insect, a disciple of the Heavenly Soul Sect adept in dealing with souls and supernatural entities could easily discern the rank of a fierce ghost. A 7th grade fierce ghost, something most of the Heavenly Soul Sect's secret realm elders did not possess, aside from a few senior elders and the sect master. Such a fierce ghost was almost a thing of legends for the disciples of that sect. With Li Chunhai's insight, he couldn't perceive much, only that this very fierce ghost before him felt like a dark sea with no other shore in sight, unknowable in depth or breadth. What he saw was but a fraction of this black ocean. Under everyone's gaze, Han Ruyan's eyes, cold and lifeless, turned towards Chang Shuyang. With just a glance, several barriers of treasure light shone on Chang Shuyang's body. All these lights were autonomously protective talismans and low-grade magical treasures. As the Saint Heir of Blood Demon Cave, his strength was debatable, but he was never lacking in treasures. Bang! 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 These barriers of light shattered one after another, some corroded by black fog, some destroyed by the eerie wedding dress, and others melted like candles. This strange and powerful curse power left Chang Shuyang with disbelief on his face, his heart racing as he felt the terror of death. This female ghost really wanted to kill her here, and he couldn't fight back. Stop it! Do not harm our sect Saint Heir. A booming shout came, and a silhouette descended from the sky like a rock, its arms extending with a rich scent of blood emanating from rainbows, resembling two massive blood-colored blades. His aura was undisguised. He was indeed a top powerhouse of the secret realm 5th level with a fully cultivated visceral system. I am Di Xiu, an elder of the Blood Demon Cave. Who dares to attack our sect Saint Heir? Are you declaring war on our Blood Demon Cave? Di Xiu roared, swinging his arms horizontally, and the rolling blood evil blade light split the street in two, shocking the spectators immensely. Any Tom or Harry here is yelling now, "Get down here." With a cold snort, the roof of the carriage broke open, countless pale corpse hands piled up, forming a terrifying giant hand 100 meters long, grabbing both the blood-light blades and Di Xiu in the palm of its hand. What? Di Xiu's face paled with shock. His strong spiritual power tried to free himself, and every pore in his body erupted with blood-colored blade energy, trying to break free from the pale giant hand. However, no matter how he struggled, the giant hand made of countless corpse hands was being replenished as quickly as he could cut them. More corpse hands covered him again, forming a relentless cycle.
Bang!
Like squashing a little bug, Di Xiu's lower body exploded. His legs turned into mush, and with a final effort, his upper body broke free and flew away. The pale giant hand simply waved, smacking the just-escaped Di Xiu like swatting a fly, flinging him hundreds of meters away, smashing several buildings in the process.
Uncle Di.
Chang Shiyang was dazed, watching a family elder being slapped away like a fly, feeling something shatter inside him. Then, under the gaze of Chang Shiyang and the crowd, a young man clad in black robes slowly stepped down from the carriage. He had sharp, distinct features, eyes bright and piercing, one hand held behind his back, exuding a domineering air that instilled a spontaneous fear in anyone who met his gaze. At the same time, everyone had an epiphany. This person must be the rumored top talent of Chongzhou from the demon sect, known as the Immortal Seed. Apparently, the rumors were true. Is it you who wants to witness my methods? Su Jie walked slowly, the crowd parting way for him in fear. Chang Shiyang clenched his teeth, just about to speak, when he suddenly felt a burning pain on his face, and his vision spun wildly. Su Jie, appearing suddenly in front of Chang Shiyang, slapped him to the ground, his face swelling up with a visible handprint, most of his teeth knocked out by the force of the slap. You call yourself qualified to measure my tolerance? Utterly foolish. Su Jie stepped on Chang Shiyang's chest, his gaze cold as if looking at an ant, which filled Chang Shiyang with immense humiliation and anguish. Being slapped and then stepped on. He had never been so humiliated his whole life. Do you know who I am? Get your foot off me. Chang Shiyang's face turned bright red, his spiritual power erupting in vain as Su Jie's foot pressed down like a mountain, immovable no matter how hard he tried. In that suppression was also a weirdly cold force that stifled his spiritual power, preventing him from casting any spells or techniques, a power belonging to Han Ruyan. Whoever you are won't change the fact that you're worthless. Wanting to measure someone's strength, you don't even look at what you're worth. Su Jie exerted force under his foot, breaking Chang Shiyang's ribs and driving them into his organs. If it wasn't for the life force of the secret realm, an ordinary person would already be deemed dead. Ah! Chang Shiyang's pain screams were gut-wrenching. He spat blood and struggled to breathe, only then truly realizing the vast difference between him and Su Jie was like that between a firefly and the bright moon. In Chongzhou, he was a distinguished young figure, but before Su Jie, he became like dust underfoot, a recognition that only made the typically proud Chang Shiyang even harder to accept. This is what happens when you offend our Ghost Ridge Palace. Does anyone else want to try? Su Jie's gaze swept slowly across the audience, immediately silencing the crowd. Pin-drop quiet ensued. Witnessing Su Jie's domineering behavior and fearsome strength, they dared not make a peep. In the demon path, might is right, and Su Jie, being powerful, naturally intimidated everyone. Except for the foolish Chang Shiyang, who was indeed fortunate to demonstrate that the rumors about Su Jie were indeed not false. Su Jie truly lived up to his name as Chongzhou's top talent.
Суєсловлі віддрем his gaze.
When venturing out, Su Jie represented the face of Ghost Ridge Palace, a directive given by the sect Master Zhang Junwei before he left the sect. Especially in Nanyang City, a stronghold of the Heavenly Soul sect where demon sect members frequently haunted, those demon sect members were all wild and ruthless. Su Jie had to demonstrate his power, for concealing his abilities would not earn respect but contempt from others, which would only lead to more trouble. As for you, Blood Demon Cave Saint Air, if you've got the nerve, why don't you cross the border and start a war with us at Ghost Ridge Palace? See if you actually have the guts. We've driven back the 5 righteous sects led by Guanchao Pavilion, and we certainly won't be scared of a mere Blood Demon Cave. Su Jie's face was filled with disdain. Ghost Ridge Palace was located in Qingzhou, while Chongzhou was separated from Qingzhou by Jingzhou, meaning they didn't even share borders, making a sect war practically impossible. If the Blood Demon Cave really mobilized their entire sect to attack, Ghost Ridge Palace would simply laugh it off. After all, the Blood Demon Cave would first have to deal with the numerous righteous sects along the way, and no one would sit back and allow a demon sect to make such outrageous claims unchallenged. Did they really think the righteous sects had no pride? Mr. Su, we admit defeat. Please spare our sect's saint heir. Di Xiu ran over again, his lower body regenerating from continuously condensing blood. Bones, muscles, blood vessels, and skin formed, recreating his legs. The rate of recovery was so surprising that even Su Jie was taken aback. Although his legs were restored, Di Xiu no longer carried his previous imperious aura. Su Jie's earlier slap had sobered him up, making him profoundly aware that he was no match. Looking at Chang Shiyang, he also exhibited an unusual healing ability. His punctured internal organs, impaled by a rib, had already stopped bleeding and were repairing themselves. Evidently, this was a powerful cultivation technique of the Blood Demon Cave. You think just saying "let go" is enough? While speaking, Su Jie slowly lifted his left foot, aiming it at Chang Shiyang's head. One stomp and Chang Shiyang's head would definitely burst, and no amount of regenerative ability could save him then. Oncle Di, save me. I don't want to die. Chang Shiyang was genuinely terrified, his eyes filled with utter panic because, from Su Jie's expression, it was clear that he didn't value his life or his status as a saint heir. Saint heir Su Jie had killed before, even someone with Wei Ji's immortal seed status, who was much more esteemed than Chang Shiyang, and even a member of Guanchao Pavilion, the strongest sect in Qingzhou. Su Jie had nonetheless killed without hesitation. Master Su, please spare him for the sake of Heavenly Soul Sect. At the same time, another voice transmitted through, belonging to a middle-aged man with hair half black, half white, and a piercing aura. He wore the attire of the Heavenly Soul Sect and also had the cultivation of the Secret Realm 5th level. This was the territory of the Heavenly Soul Sect. They had received the news and arrived as fast as they could, but the fight had ended too quickly. By the time this elder from the Heavenly Soul Sect arrived, all he saw was Su Jie standing over Chang Shiyang, about to take his life. Su Jie looked over, glanced at the Heavenly Soul Sect elder, then at Di Xiu, and spreading open his left palm said, "For the sake of Heavenly Soul Sect, 5 million spirit stones for your saint heir's life. I'm giving you a bargain." Upon hearing this, Di Xiu's face turned as black as the bottom of a pot. He was specifically sent by the Blood Demon Cave as a protector, mainly to guard Chang Shiyang, the saint heir. Outside of Chongzhou was the domain of the righteous sect, and once they stepped out of Chongzhou, it meant entering the territory of the righteous sect. If discovered by the righteous sect, Chang Shiyang's cultivation of the secret realm 2nd level, though considered a genius in Chongzhou among the younger generation, was nothing in the eyes of the righteous sects. To be on the safe side, the sect master of Blood Demon Cave had sent Di Xiu to protect and escort Chang Shiyang. They thought they were already within the territory of Qingzhou's Heavenly Soul Sect and wouldn't face any danger. So Di Xiu had let his guard down. But this unexpected situation occurred, and when the protection of the magical treasure was shattered while he was meditating and cultivating, Di Xiu sensed Chang Shiyang's crisis and hurried over, following which, he was brutally beaten by Su Jie. And now, facing Su Jie's extortion, he felt nothing but anger and a suffocating helplessness. 5 million spirit stones. That's highway robbery. Well, it's Chang Shiyang's own fault for seeking his death, recklessly provoking others with his divine sense. He can't blame anyone else for the harsh price. If his skills are inferior, he must accept defeat. 5 million spirit stones, Master. I didn't realize you elders were so wealthy. The total wealth of my inner disciple status doesn't even amount to 1,000th of this 5 million spirit stones. The wealthy one isn't an elder, but rather the identity of the Blood Demon Cave's saint heir. Don't get it confused, us normal cultivators in the secret realm don't have that kind of wealth. Su Jie is ruthless and fierce. No wonder he could rise from the ranks of Ghost Ridge Palace. Chang Shiyang has greatly underestimated him. The crowd of onlookers gasped when they heard Su Jie mention the figure of 5 million spirit stones. The temperature around seemed to drop several degrees. 5 million spirit stones. A vast fortune that most cultivators in the secret realm could not amass in their entire lifetime. Ordinary cultivators in the secret realm only had around 1 to 200,000 spirit stones to their name, and their weapons were generally at the magic artifact level. Even a low-grade magical treasure would require at least 1,000,000 spirit stones, something the vast majority of cultivators in the secret realm could not afford to use. It could be said that the figure of 5,000,000 spirit stones made many cultivators present breathe heavily. If it were any other cultivator in the secret realm, even those at the secret realm 5th level, there would be some among the onlookers daring to entertain the thought of taking it for themselves, pondering how to get their hands on it. But the strength that Su Jie had just demonstrated, suppressing Di Xiu with one hand and stepping on Chang Shiyang with the other, showed an invincible prowess, convincing everyone to keep their thoughts to themselves. No one dared to act, no one dared to go to Su Jie and court death. Gentlemen, I am Elder Shui Xian from the Law Enforcement Hall of the Heavenly Soul Sect. Mr. Chang, Mr. D, this incident was initially your Blood Demon Cave's fault. So, Elder Shui Xian from the Heavenly Soul Sect, who had just arrived and was a strong cultivator of the secret realm 5th level, coughed twice, glancing at Chang Shiyang and Di Xiu, whose expressions were uncertain. He had already learned the full story from Li Chunhai. Not to mention that Su Jie was in the right, Su Jie now had the absolute advantage due to his great strength. In the demon path, only strength and power were honored. This debt had no choice but to be paid to avoid disaster. 5,000,000 spirit stones is too much. How about 3,000,000? Di Xiu couldn't help but speak out, his face filled with difficulty. Of course, that's possible. For a reduction of 1,000,000 spirit stones, I'll extract one of his souls, and I won't let you be at a loss. Su Jie kindly bargained, his spirit pressure bursting forth. The might of his primordial spirit at the God unification level caused everyone present to sweat profusely. Even Di Xiu and Shui Xian, the two top elders with 5th level cultivation of the secret realm, felt an immense pressure, filled with shock in their eyes. Reaching God unification realm in cultivation of the primordial spirit is a realm attainable only by those at the Taoist platform realm. The onlookers immediately recognized why Su Jie was bestowed with the title of Qingzhou's #1 immortal seed. Just the primordial spirit he revealed made the title well-deserved. A trail of 3 flowers gathered atop Su Jie's head, and his indistinguishable primordial spirit slowly emerged. With a single press of his hand, the pervasive soul power formed a giant hand, which pierced into Chang Shiyang's skull. A scream was heard as from Chang Shiyang's head. A chibi version of Chang Shiyang, only slightly larger than a baby, appeared in the palm, forcibly extracting Chang Shiyang's primordial spirit from the physical body. When compared to Su Jie's life-size primordial spirit, possessing the same acupoints, blood vessels, meridians, and nerves exactly like his physical body and appearing as a real person, Chang Shiyang's infant-sized, semi-illusory primordial spirit seemed incapable of struggling or moving and was completely crushed by sheer power. Firm spiritual fingers turned into blades, ready to sever Chang Shiyang's primordial spirit, aiming to remove the earth soul and the heavenly soul from his 3 souls and 7 spirits. One must know, it is only with the 3 souls and 7 spirits forming the soul can a body possess intelligence and the capability for movement. If Su Jie were to extract 2 souls, Chang Shiyang's body would merely be a breathing vegetable, barely alive, much like a living dead, without consciousness. No, Uncle D. Save me. I don't want to die. I am willing to pay for my life. The chibi version of Chang Shiyang's primordial spirit turned pale with fear. His illusory figure flickered and was on the verge of collapse. We'll pay. Di Xiu glanced at Su Jie's indifferent face, then at Chang Shiyang, who was begging for mercy in Su Jie's hand, and he could only grit his teeth resolutely. This sum of money was incredibly painful even for their status. But at this moment, Di Xiu dared not bet on Su Jie being willing or not to kill. He could not afford the consequences of Chang Shiyang becoming an imbecile. If he were to return with him in such a state, he would be unable to explain it to the sect master, leaving him with no choice but to buy his way out. The identity of Chang Shiyang as a saint heir clearly didn't matter at all to the man before him. Sensible. While Elder Shui of the Heavenly Soul Sect is present as a witness, pay up. Su Jie snapped his fingers, toying with Chang Shiyang's primordial spirit in his palm, kneading and twisting, tormenting it mercilessly. causing Chang Shiyang to scream out in agony, which also made Di Xiu's expression increasingly wretched, experiencing a sense of humiliation stronger than he ever felt since entering the secret realm. But now, beneath the eaves, Di Xiu could only shakily reach for his storage bag, taking out one top-grade spirit stone after another, along with various spiritual materials. Not enough. Su Jie swept his divine sense over the contents, intensifying his grip on Chang Shiyang's primordial spirit, causing crack after crack to appear, resembling fragile porcelain that would shatter if this continued. Ease up your hand. I'm gathering it. Di Xiu brought out more spiritual materials that even pained himself, but it still wasn't enough. With no other choice, Di Xiu took the storage bag from Chang Shiyang's physical body, retrieved Chang Shiyang's stockpile of spirit stones and spiritual materials, and finally managed to gather 5 million spirit stones, even paying extra due to Su Jie's insistence that it wasn't enough.